All right, everyone, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everybody, welcome. Kim, you're going to do the honors tonight of roll call.
King,
Present.
Hugh,
Present.
Eulogi, sorry.
Here.
Burbogger,
Here.
Dexon,
Here.
Bartleson,
Here.
Cardamom.
Here.
All right, thank you much. I see Bill Carroll, our police chaplain's here to open us up.
Pray with me if you would. Dear God, as we gather together, we have one empty seat because we thank you for the life of Councilman Pat McDonald. I thank you for how he loved this city. I thank you for how he loved his family. I thank you for how he loved your son, Jesus. And I thank you for how he served people and he did everything he could for his city and the people around him. Lord, blessings on his family, blessings on Joanne, blessings on his legacy. And Lord, I thank you also for this council that ask for wisdom and the love of Jesus that they make in their decisions, Lord. And at this time of year when we celebrate you, Lord, we ask that you would come and bring peace and love to our city. We thank you so much for this group of people that have dedicated their time to serve. And we thank you for the city of Lockport. In your name, amen.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. All right, friends, liaison reports. What do you got, Susie?
Yes, I have one for special events. On Saturday, December 6th, we'll have a couple events. The first one is the State Street Mistletoe Market. It will be at the Metra parking lot from 11 until 5 o'clock, and this will be done in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce and Santa. Walk. Thank you. The Lockport Annual Cookie Walk from 11:30 until 3:30, and it is sold out. There were 400 tickets that went really quick. The check-in at the market will be from 10:30 to 11:30. 40 businesses will be participating. Majority of them are in the downtown area, but there are a few on Route 171 and a few on 159th Street. And then we have Jingle Bell Jam at Delwood Park on this Saturday as well, from 4:30 to 6:30, and it is hosted by the Lockport Park District. Then on Sunday, December 14th, there will be a movie double feature at the Roxy. Tickets are still available. At 3 o'clock, there will be a showing of the Polar Express, and at 7 o'clock, the seasonal classic Holiday Inn. So if you are interested, get your tickets.
Right on, thanks, Susie.
Hey, I've got a police and public safety liaison report. First item on Saturday, December 13th, the Lockport Police Department will be hosting our annual Shop with a Cop event at Walmart. Each year, members of our department raise funds to support children in need and then join them for an afternoon of shopping, food, and fun. This event is a meaningful opportunity to give back to our community, and many of our officers bring their families to help make the day even more special. Also on Saturday, members of the Lockport Police Department will be participating in the Lockport Love Parade of Presents. Lockport Love is a charitable organization that supports families in need, and the police department has been both a founding and active member since the organization began. And finally, now that snow has finally arrived, police department just wanted to send a friendly reminder to take it easy out there on the roads. Please slow down, drive with extra care, and give yourself a little more time to get where you're going. It's also a great idea to keep some winter essentials in your car, just in case you run into any trouble.
Jonathan, can you tell me one more time, Lockport Love, what was the date?
This Saturday?
This Saturday, yeah, okay. All right, thank you. All right, Jerry,
Any additional details are from Chief.
13, okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, Saturday the 13th, my fault.
I don't have a report. I just want to say thank you to the Public Works Department for all your hard work and numerous hours you've put in for snow plowing over the holiday weekend. So, great job, guys, and we appreciate it. Thanks.
Anything over here?
I don't have anything.
Just
just a quick reminder again, February 4th is when we're going to be recognizing a home or homes in reference to the beautification recognition. So please, if you haven't already done so, Lockport residents, please get your pictures in and your application so we can recognize you on February 4th at City Council meeting. Thank you.
All right, right on, thank you. All right, so tonight, looking for a motion to have a consent agenda.
Second.
All right, Christina, JR. Everybody good? All in favor?
Mr. Mayor, one item. If we could pull item number CD1 just for action, let me give you a little context. We found out today that the state has adopted, as of November 30th, a new energy code. So going from the 2021, which we currently have adopted, to a 2024 energy code. Based on a whole bunch of feedback that they got from builders and everybody else about some of the requirements that were put into the 2021 code specific to insulation and the cost that has accrued to building, they have revamped some of the sections to kind of pull back on some of those requirements. And in doing so, they've identified to republish as 2024. So we're asking on the dais tonight, there is an example of the ordinance that we would replace, the ordinance that is on the consent agenda tonight. The only modification, because we are required to adopt state codes regardless of what year they are, the only change is that we are going to put in yellow on that page, just simply reference all current state codes. Plumbing code, energy code, ADA code, those are codes that the state requires us to adopt regardless of what they are. And so to just make it easier so that we're not constantly coming back to you to change a date on our code, we're just simply asking to make that change, and then we will have adopted the 2024 code.
All right, we'll pull off CD1 then from consent. All right, so tonight we're looking for approval for our regular city council meeting minutes from November 19th, committee of the whole meeting minutes from November 19th, our special joint plan and zoning commission and city council workshop meeting minutes from the 19th, payroll period ending November 23rd, bills through November 25th, ordinance 25020 declaring the necessity of obtaining certain real property declared as surplus at the Lockport Heights Sanitary District for public purpose. There is resolution 25095, which is approval of a purchase sale agreement with Lockport Heights for approximately 10 acres for $300,000. There's resolution 25094 authorizing the replacement of lockers at the Lockport Police Station, not to exceed $180K. CD2 is resolution 25090 approving the site improvement grant for the property located at 900 South State in the amount of $10,000. And resolution 25093, which is approving fire alarm and sprinkler system installation grant for the properties at 900 through 936 North State in the amount of $46,247. So looking for a motion to approve. All right, Susie and was it Joanne or JR seconded? You were louder. That was it. All right. Then can I do a roll call, please?
King,
Yes.
Prop,
Aye.
Ilogi,
Yes.
Bergbauer,
Yes.
Deskin,
Yes.
Bartlesen,
Yes?
Cardamone.
Aye.
All right, so first on the agenda, we'll put, looking for a motion to approve ordinance 25019 that we took off the consent agenda.
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Darren and Jonathan. Any questions? Everybody understood what Lance had to say? We're all good with that? Okay. Then we'll just do we'll do a roll call. It's fine.
King,
Yes.
Pugh,
Aye.
Ilogi,
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Deskin,
Yes.
Bartlesen,
Yes?
Cardamone.
Aye.
All right, next we're looking for approval for ordinance 25017, adopting the budget of the city of Lockport for fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2026. So looking for a motion there.
Second.
All right, JR and Darren. Any further questions, concerns, anything else you want to review? Lisa, I know we were pretty thorough on this.
All right, I know we've been going over it for some weeks. We're all good? All right, then we'll do a roll call, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Gallogi,
Yes.
Hergbauer. Deskin. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes?
Cardamone.
Aye. All right, then, looking for a motion to approve Resolution 25018, which is for the levy for Lockport this year.
So moved. Second.
All right, Darren, JR, any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Then we'll do a roll call, please.
King.
Yes.
Pugh.
Aye.
Gallogi.
Yes.
Bergbauer. Yes. Deskin.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes?
Cardamone.
Aye. All right, so any new business? Anybody else have anything? All right, then we'll look for a motion to close out our city council.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, JR and Christina, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Take your time, Kim, whenever you're ready.
Ready? King.
Present.
Pugh.
Present.
Gallogi.
Here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Deskin.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes.
And Cardamone.
Here.
I said yes.
All right. All right, so first thing on the agenda, FN1, so Resolution 25098, looking for accepting the proposal for the city's property liability insurance policy, Resolution 25099. Do you want to chit-chat about that, Lisa?
Yes, thank you. So this is the time of the year that we're looking for approval for our insurance renewal. The insurance policies go through December 31st. We have Horton Group as the broker of record, which is now, they've been acquired by Marsh McLennan Agency. We went out to market for 2026 insurance policies, and they really came back with some really great renewals. So very excited about that. Let's see here. So for property and liability and cyber insurance, we're going with Obsidian Insurance Holdings. It's a 1.04 increase. I don't think we've seen an increase like that, that small in years. So really happy with how that worked out for us. And for workers' comp, we're going to stay with IPRF. That increase is a little bit more. That came out to a 10% increase. So overall, when you combine both of those policies together, it was a 5.5% increase, which is pretty favorable for the city. I have Tony Evans from Marsh McLennan, and he's going to talk through a few things. You can go up to the podium there.
Okay. And what's the oh, there we go. You in charge? Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you. I just thought I'd take a few minutes here just to explain a little bit about our role as your insurance broker for the city of Lockport. And I did prepare it'll be very short. It's 9 slides, and it's going to take about the length of 3. So, excuse me, I'll go through this. First and foremost, my name is Tony Evans. I've been doing this 35 plus years. I specialize in public entity in and around Cook, Collier County, such as Will and DuPage. So back to our objectives. To protect your balance sheet. In the event of a claim, large one, I want to make sure that you're covered. My other role is to provide you the absolute most broad coverage at the best price in the insurance marketplace, and I certainly think that we've demonstrated that here this evening. And also to make you a better risk. So to help me better market your coverage, I am probably on every 3 or 4 months, talk to Lisa and to Maggie, see what's going on, review claims, and make sure that there's any opportunities that do provide for training or any help initiatives surrounding safety, loss control, that we can help you with that. Next slide, please. So who we are, Lisa touched on that. You can go to the next one. And we were acquired about a year and a half ago from the Marsh McLennan Agency. We've had a public entity practice, dedicated practice for over 25 years. We have 660 public sector clients in a 6-state footprint. And now, as part of Marsh, we have about 11,000 MMA employees, and we represent public entity clients at a state and federal legislative level. Next slide, please. What's that? Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, so what's going on in the public entity insurance market? There are really 6 major areas of concern. Property, for the last 5 or 6 years, we all know that the costs of goods and services, materials, labor rates are all increasing, and that affects the buildings within the city of Lockport. So you are experiencing increases on an annual basis in the value of those buildings. Replacement costs, not market values. Law enforcement legal liability is part of the coverages that we're providing you, and the rise in civil rights violations, defending those are increasingly more expensive and more frequent. Auto liability, again, back to law enforcement. We have spent a lot of time over the last couple of years talking about your pursuit policy within the department, and a lot of questions from the underwriting side with that, and we're all in good shape there in terms of what you're doing. Excess liability, Cook County especially, thankfully you're not part of that. I would say 6 years ago, there were as many as 15 carriers offering excess liability in Cook County. Now there's probably 5, and that does spread out. Illinois is one of the most expensive states to insure public entity exposures. And finally, workers' compensation. Illinois is a very employee-friendly state. Increases in wages and medical expense. Quick example might be a rotator cuff. 6 years ago, that was probably $40,000, and now that would cost about $90,000. Okay, so let's look at your exposure changes. So how do the underwriters assess your risk? It has to do with a lot with exposures and what your losses have been. This year, you can see year over year what sort of increases that we've seen. Revenues from 59 to 93 million. Property and equipment, this is what I was talking about with the inflation of 127 million, increasing year over year to 135. The number of vehicles has gone up about 14, and your payroll has increased at about 4%. Okay, so your expiring program with Travelers and IPRF. IPRF is a trust that was formed in the mid-'80s, and it's one of the best public entity programs available in Illinois. Your total premium for the current and expiring year was $848,000. Travelers, that same combo of carriers, they came in at $959,000, which was not acceptable. Obsidian is a program, newer program. They are A-rated, financially best rated. A or better, and their premium with IPRF on the workers' compensation is just $20,000 or so. I think Lisa said it was an increase of 1%, 1.5%, and compared to your peer public entity exposures and other clients that we have, that's very, very, very good. And the next steps is to continue our claim reviews, and certainly have every 5-6 months, how can we do a better job, and what's the communication like going between Lisa and her staff. And that is insurance in a nutshell for the city of Lockport.
Any questions
for me?
on the insurance renewal? It's favorable. So what we're looking for are two resolutions at the next meeting. Resolution number 25098 and resolution 25099. So we're seeking approval for either consent or action.
You guys all good with consent? Everything work?
Perfect.
All right, consent
Great,
it is.
thank you, and thanks Maggie for working through all of this.
All right, CA1, Resolution 25103, looking to approve a perpetual easement agreement with Bonnie Bray. What do you got,
Thank you,
Ben?
Mayor. Members of the council, the city of Lockport entered into an agreement with three parties back in 2000 with the Lockport Heights Sanitary District, the Bonnie Bray Sanitary District, and the city of Lockport. 25 years later, the treatment plant that we're operating is failing. It's beyond its useful life. We are looking to, we don't want to replace the treatment plant. We've planned to make the Division Street plant larger. And so we really need to just tear it down and put in a lift station, much like we did at the Lockport Heights Sanitary District. And we'll convey that sewage down to Division for treatment in the future. We just didn't feel comfortable, even though we're in the IGA until 2030, we didn't really feel like we had the time to wait until 2030. And so the parties involved, the Bonnie Bray Sanitary District and the City of Lockport staff have agreed to a perpetual easement that gives us the confidence to move forward and actually spend money on property we don't own. And it also helps us on our IPA loans. So we're good with proceeding with the perpetual easement. There's going to be a minor text amendment that we have in there about clarifying snow plowing and grass cutting and things that we already actually maintain the property anyway. And so we're happy to put that in the agreement for them. So other than that, the document that we bring the following week would be exactly the same. We're pleased to move forward with this and happy to take any questions.
Anybody got anything for Ben? Another one of those topics that we've been talking about for years.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Everybody good with consent?
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll make those changes and it'll be.
Brian, what do you got? Resolution 25097.
Yes, this one is for the assistance in design engineering for our 2026 street resurfacing project. With this project, normally we do the design of the resurfacing in-house, but this one actually we're going to be doing a full reconstruction of a section of Cove Avenue that is between Shoals and Basin Drive. This curb is completely destroyed in this section, and the road is beyond just a resurfacing, so we do need to do a full reconstruction. So to reprofile the road and all that, we need a little bit more than in-house capability can do. Also on Cove Avenue, there's a twin existing culverts that are about 300 feet south of 151st Street. We are also using Civil Tech to do the redesign of those twin culverts and getting the permitting through all the Army Corps and everything else for that section. They also do our pavement cores, and they'll be doing a survey on 167th Street to verify the right-of-way for potential installation of sidewalks along the south side corridor. So there's a little bit of a gap on the south side of 167th where there's unincorporated. So we're going to look and see if we have enough right-of-way to put a sidewalk so that people from the east and west can walk all the way along 167th Street. So they're going to be doing the full right-of-way verification for us. So I'm asking for approval to place resolution number 25097 on the proposal for Civil Tech to design the 2026 resurfacing project in the amount not to exceed $171,797.60 on the agenda for the next regular scheduled council meeting.
All right, questions, concerns, thoughts? All right, we'll put it on consent, please, and thank you. PW2, what else?
So this one is for Civil Tech 2. This is for the design of a culvert replacement under Basin Drive. So it's kind of, Basin Drive's that northern street, it's just kind of in between. So there's a culvert that goes through, and then between kind of where the orange is, between those four houses is an open ditch. We're going to be looking at enclosing that ditch with an elliptical culvert. Currently, the side slopes exceed 4 to 1, making it hard for the residents to maintain that area. Plus, we're getting a lot of erosion and backup from it. So we're going to actually enclose that ditch, give them a little bit of flatter land, and just keep the water going down. Everything keeps going south from that section. So this is just continue the culvert that's under Basin and is also under North Street, and we'll just close in that one ditch. So I'm looking for approval to place resolution number 25-100 for the Basin Drive Culvert and Swale improvements from Civil Tech Engineering for a total not to exceed the fee of $80,968.27 on the next agenda, next scheduled agenda.
All right, any questions on this one, friends? All right, we'll do consent. And then you got one more.
Yes. This one is this is for our yearly SCADA, so this is for our 2026 SCADA contract. They currently, Concentric maintains our current SCADA system. So this is just to continue the same service that they're providing now, which is a monthly service and making sure it's updated, secured, and then they also do, if we have any issues, to troubleshoot and all that on a time and material basis. So this one's for approving or placing resolution number 25-092 from proposal from Concentric Integration LLC in the amount of $39,910 for our 2026 SCADA management services on the agenda for the next regular scheduled city council meeting.
All right, any questions on this one? All right, thanks, Brian. We'll do consent on this as well. All right, CD1, so ordinance 25016 is amending the Code of Ordinances as it pertains to single-family dwellings and relevant definitions. What do you got, Lance?
So this has been discussed at a number of past council meetings and Plan and Zoning Commission meetings. It relates to the way that townhomes are platted these days and the impacts that that has on our bulk standard requirements. So the proposed changes are to clarify the definitions for building lot coverage and open space, to modify the bulk regulations and offer additions to parking requirements that we have seen become more common because of our overnight parking bans. Townhome developments in particular are challenged by that. And so we've seen different communities, Oak Valley, Sadie Ridge, Silo Bend, all have added on-street perpendicular parking that they maintain as private parking. It's not part of our roadway network, but it provides them visitor parking that they otherwise wouldn't have. What you see on your screen, the underlined sections, are what we are looking to change. This was explained in quite a bit of detail at the Plan and Zoning Commission meeting, but basically this is looking at changing the way that our bulk standards reflect attached single-family homes. And so you'll see higher numbers than what you would otherwise see through here. And let me get to this as an example. The Sadie Ridge townhomes are our most recent example of this. So because I didn't bring my glasses tonight, I can't really see the numbers that are on the screen, of course, but I will try and look in my printed copy. Oh, thank you, Lisa. So in Sadie Ridge, our current R3 maximum impervious surface coverage is 65%. But at Sadie Ridge, they require 80 because of the way that townhomes are platted. Our proposed is to go to 85 and a maximum building coverage of 70%. And here's an illustration of why this is important for us. The lower elevation shows how a townhome is divided. So in that building, in that elevation, there are 5 different lots, quote-unquote homes as well. They're all individually owned. They're all individually deeded, just like anybody that has a single-family detached house on a regular lot. The main difference is in that upper right-hand corner, the kind of tannish image. You'll see the footprints for those 5 units and how they are divided. What you will notice is because an HOA maintains all the grass, they maintain the landscaping, they maintain the driveways, they maintain all of the surrounding landscape, they want to own that so they're not trespassing on somebody else's property. And so because of that, townhomes have now become platted 5 to 6 feet off the front of the garage, 5 to 6 feet off the end units. The interior units don't have any setback because they're shared party walls. And then off the back, what we have created the opportunity for a developer to do is to make sure that we allow for a patio, because nearly every time somebody moves into one of these and turn around within 3 minutes and they've got a patio submittal for us or a deck submittal, So we want to make sure that those can stay on private property. So we have asked developers to kind of extend that space in the back to accommodate those improvements. So that is what's creating the heartburn, because if you just went based on a typical single-family detached lot where your lot goes all the way to the back to your neighbor's lot and your lot in the front went all the way to the right-of-way line, you would have a lot of space to be able to minimize the percentage open space. And that's what our current bulk regulations are based off of. But in a townhome, because of the smaller lot, those lot coverage and the impervious surface are significantly higher just as a baseline fact of life of their platting than they would otherwise. So we're requesting, so we don't continue to have variance after variance or request for modification after modification every time we bring a subdivision or neighborhood to you for consideration, we're asking to have this updated. On here, you'll also see some adjustments to the bulk regulations. The other thing that we realized is we don't reflect rear-loaded townhomes in our zoning code or even detached single-family homes. So if you go to a new urbanist community, traditional neighborhood, you see a lot of these downtown where there is not a garage in the front of the house. Those are in the back, they're either separate buildings, they're connected. In some of the newer neo-traditional developments, they're off of an alley. If you look at Parker Ridge right now, the interior court homes all have alley accessed, so the garages are on the back. And so we never reflected that. And technically, the reason for our front yard setback typically is to accommodate a driveway that can accommodate 2 cars to park in the driveway, because we all know that we use the garage as a storage unit, or at least most people do. And so cars park in the driveway. So when we have a front-loaded garage, we have that setback to accommodate those cars. But in a rear-loaded situation, that doesn't really exist. And so we're in essence penalizing people who want to do a rear-loaded product because we're requiring that they push their house back further to accommodate a driveway that doesn't exist on the front. So we're making some of those changes in this as well and defining them based on front-loaded or rear-loaded in here. That will help us as staff to not have to bring you modifications that always tend to raise red flags with council members and Plan and Zoning Commission members, and just make this process a little bit simpler, so we don't have to have the same explanation every time. This slide shows just some changes that reflect that front and rear-loaded garage. It's just some additions to that. The other thing that we did with the code, because of the lotting types with townhomes, we don't have separation standards. So could somebody come in and put the buildings 20 feet apart because they put a 10-foot lot line off the back of the building and 10-foot lot line off the back of the building and just smash them together? They could. So what we have here is we've added minimum separation for the buildings to make sure that everybody feels like they have open space behind their house, just like a normal detached single family where the lot goes all the way back. It's just maintained by an HOA as opposed to you as a part of your personal maintenance. So these separation between buildings allow that air to be able to be there still, regardless of where the plat line falls.
All right.
And then this is the last piece related to the parking spaces. This is just simply saying that we will request that there is 1 additional space per 10 spaces required for the total number of dwellings as visitor parking located on the street but perpendicular and maintained by the HOA.
So ultimately, what you're looking at is a little more flexibility for property owners.
It's really not so much flexibility, it's just recognizing a reality of legal platting more than anything else. Because every time we would run into this, our current code is just simply based off of a normal single-family lot. Anybody that lives in the house, you know your lot goes however far it is, 60, 70 feet behind your house. In a townhome, your yard technically goes 15 feet behind your house. And if you have a back patio or something like that, you recognize how close that can be. So we're simply allowing for a property owner to make small improvements in their backyard, but not get dinged by variances, because when we get a building permit request for a patio, we review it against our bulk regulations. Happens every single time. We say, I'm sorry, but you can't do that because the bulk regulations say that you can only cover 45% of your lot, even though your house covers more than 45% of your lot. So you're going to have to go in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's a $600 variance fee, and they just don't make any sense for us to make residents go through that process. And so this allows us the ability to approve those based on the realities of legal platting today for townhomes.
Thanks. Any other questions, thoughts? All right, Lance, what are you looking for with that?
This is simply a request for action or consent for ordinance 25016.
All right, I think we're good with consent on this? Or do you have a question, John?
It was more related to,
Okay. All right, then consent. All right, what else you got? CD2.
So CD2 is related to two different, one ordinance and one resolution. The ordinance is 25022. This is for granting a special use permit for a gas station on property located at 15051 South Archer Avenue, commonly known as the Quick Run Gas Mart. And then a resolution number 25102 approving final development plans for the new gas station development. Just as context, the reason we have two of these, the ordinance is something that relates to the zoning code and is a change in the zoning code to create a special use permit in the ordinance that goes with that. That also approves rezonings, which is something we'll talk about in the next case. The resolution is simply confirming the Plan Commission's review of the final development plans. That is engineering, landscape plans, building elevations, all the things that we require as a part of a submittal for the physical area around whatever the development is. I'll run you through this really quick, but in essence, this is at the northeast corner of 151st Street and Archer Avenue. It is about 1.5 acres. It's currently zoned C3 highway commercial. It is currently vacant land. This used to be the mobile home park that was located there. The reason this is a special use permit is gas stations are required to be approved as a special use permit. If you'll remember, some of you were on the council when we changed the special use permit for a gas station to a special use because we wanted to more directly locate where gas stations were most appropriate for the market, for the city. So we identified a series of different locations that were most appropriate for that to just kind of geographically spread them across the city so we didn't end up with gas stations across from gas stations, down the street from gas stations, down the corridor from gas stations. This site is one of those locations, and so it is a pre-approved location for a gas station. This is the location on your screen here. It's surrounded in blue. Archer Avenue kind of runs diagonally from the lower left-hand corner of the screen to the upper right. 151st Street intersects with that, kind of at the apex of that trapezoid that shows the site on the blue outline, and then runs off your screen to the right and heads over, goes all the way over to Orland Park. This is the site plan that is being proposed by the applicant. This is nearly the exact same site plan as was approved for their concept plan a couple years ago. That concept plan is still valid, and so it still holds that they have reasonable assurance that if the final development plans match the concept plan, that they have reasonable assurance that it would be approved as final development plans. Convenience store has not changed. The gas canopy has not changed. The diesel canopy is still in the same place, and all the access points are in the same place, as well as all the turn movements. We did resolve a number of issues back in the concept plan days related to trucks, because I know that there was a concern both at the Plan Commission level and the City Council and some of the residents that spoke related to not wanting to encourage semis to be able to come through here. So we lowered that diesel canopy so it wasn't able to serve any semi trucks, and we require right out only onto 151st Street for any landscape vehicles or other smaller diesel trucks that would come through the gas station. This is the landscape plan. Two things that I'll point out about this. There was concern for the neighbors to the kind of northeast there. There are two neighbors along that edge. They had requested that there be additional landscape be placed along there as well as a fence to help just kind of mitigate some of the impacts of the gas station, as well as requested house side shields on the lights that are along that edge. A house side shield, just to explain what that is when you look up at a parking lot light, they're typically 20, 25 feet in the air. You will typically see the source of that light, so it has a glare. Our code requires that on the ground, it registers as foot candles to be 0.0. So technically, there's no light trespassing off the property line, but people can still see the glare as it relates to the fixture itself. A house side shield is basically an enclosure along the back side of that fixture that helps to hide that glare. Will it eliminate it entirely? There's never any guarantee because of grade change and all that kind of stuff and what viewpoint or how close you are to the fixture, but it certainly helps. And we have requested those in a number of other places where it is adjacent to residential. So both a more intense landscaping, the fence, and the house side shields have been added to this plan. There was also a concern at the last Plan and Zoning Commission meeting related to some potential visibility of lights to the south. There is landscaping along the south side of the convenience store, as well as along the south side of those parking spaces that are directly up against the convenience store, and also the convenience store itself because of the angle that it sits. A lot of the headlights, when they turn perpendicular into the convenience store, the momentary glimpse where the headlights would shine into the neighbors is minimal compared to if that convenience store was straight north-south. So we've worked with the applicant to try and resolve some of those issues that have come up because of that. Architectural elevations, the canopy is a new canopy for Shell. They have approved this. It has full brick columns in the middle, typical kind of elevated roof structure. This one is a 3-tier one, so they have 2 lower tiers and a bigger tier to kind of break up the mass of what typically may be seen as a larger canopy over that. The building is in the background. We have worked pretty extensively with the applicant on the building materials and the building appearance. This probably looks familiar. It is essentially a very similar building to the one that is on the east side of 355 along Archer Avenue. It's also a Quick Mart. The same owner owns that building that will own and operate this one. We worked with them on including more masonry on some of the sides. We worked with them to include more limestone to be more traditional with Lockport's limestone aesthetic to incorporate into the building, and also worked with them on a little bit of the building lighting to just create some accents that weren't otherwise there as well. And they've been appreciative of that, and they meet all of our design requirements and exceed nearly every single one of them. This is what the signage would look like. There's a quick run sign over the front doors, and then down in the lower section is a monument sign with our masonry base required that will be out at the corner of 151st Street and Archer Avenue. Again, with that, we are looking for a request to put this on motion or on consent or action for the next city council meeting. And again, this is ordinance 25022 and resolution 25102.
Lance, I just noticed I don't believe the development agreement was in our packet, so I think we're going to need to go for action on 1217, if that's okay. There is a cost-sharing agreement that we've been working with the developer to put a lateral service to the American Legion across the street. And my apologies, because I've been working on it for weeks and months with Parm, and it's ready to go. I just don't think I uploaded it on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So if we could just do action, and we'll make sure we put out an extra email explaining the ins and outs of it. But very similar to what we did with the Thornton's gas station to provide additional amount of money back from the fuel tax collected and sales tax collected, performance-based up to a certain dollar amount, and that would cover the expenses for a promise that the city made to the American Legion years ago that we're finally making whole. So I'll explain all that to you later, but I didn't want it to go to consent without getting the documents in there.
Yeah, and just to The reason why that's possible now is there has never been a water line that close to the Legion where it was accessible to get across Archer. This project is bringing that water line to that intersection so that this connection is possible.
Right on. All right, we'll do action, and thank you. All right, moving on down to CD3, ordinance 25021, approving special use permit for a planned development. It's a rezoning of a number of parcels and approving preliminary and final plat developments for the subdivision.
Thank you, Mayor. This is related to ordinance 25021 and resolution 25101. This is related to the former Fox Hollow, former Hidden Lakes, and current Serenity Landing project. This is a context map showing where this property is in relation to other city kind of recognized landmarks. You'll see downtown in the upper left-hand corner, Lago Vista directly north of the site, Broken Arrow to the northeast, Willow Walk directly to the east, and Oak Creek to the southeast of the property. This is what the property looked like in 2005. And many of you may have seen this at the Plan and Zoning Commission meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we went through this again so that everybody kind of has some clarity on both the history as well as some of the facts of this case. So this is what the property looked like in 2005. It was primarily farm fields. There were one farmstead on it. I don't really know what the one in the lower right-hand corner was, whether or not that was a vacant farmstead or something like that, but it was primarily farmland. In 2007, a developer brought forward a plan called Fox Hollow. It was approved by Resolution 07267 and Ordinance 07715, and again, the relationship between ordinance and resolution. Resolution were the design plans. Ordinance was the special use permit that was associated with that. They started mass grading after this approval. They started installation of Geneva and Fox Hollow Drive and some of the utilities, but they stopped due to the recession. So I want to show you, back to that, it included 229 single-family detached homes, 96 attached homes, 325 housing units. It also included 32 industrial business units on it, and then 4 acres of commercial. And at that time, the church was a part of this development plan. It hadn't been built yet. That was a part of the overall development of Fox Hollow. The developer for this property was the same developer as Lockport Square. This was part of their consolidation of the Lockport Square properties. They bought this. That was how somewhat the church got to where they are today. This is what the property looked like after it started construction in 2008. You can see nearly all the mass grading was done for the entire property. So this is not native land. This is not native landscape. This is not original kind of natural areas. You can see where the 3 townhome unit pods were built on the left-hand side, the kind of concentric circles that go top or north to south. You can see where the building pads for the industrial buildings were going to be. You can see where Geneva Drive and Fox Hollow Boulevard are at. You can see some of the other roadways beginning to be cut in. On the east side, you can see all the retention basins were installed. You can see the installation of some of the roads and the preliminary lot grading happening on the east side. Much of what you see today are the topsoil mounds. So when a developer does a development like this, we require that they place 6 inches of topsoil back on all the clay that they use to do their mass grading. So oftentimes in a development, you can see this at Sadie Ridge right now, you'll see fairly tall mounds, 15 to 25 feet tall, of black dirt. Those still exist on this site. They run along Oak Avenue. In this image, they are in the lower right-hand corner, that dark kind of horizontal band. There's 2 of them there. Those are currently 15 to 20 foot tall, basically topsoil mounds that were there as a part of the original development. On this graphic, you'll see the utilities that were already installed. The red lines are utility lines. There are some blue lines on there, not the ones that surround the property. There are some green lines on there as well. Those are sanitary lines, storm sewer lines, and water lines that were all currently out there that were starting the project. And like many developments across the country, when the recession hit, they just kind of stopped because either the developer went bankrupt or they just didn't have the capacity to continue with the project, and that is what happened in this case. The property went into receivership. A new group came out and bought the property, and they were going to look to create what is called Hidden Lakes subdivision. This was created by Ordinance 2011-9024. They were looking at this time at age-restricted housing, medical and nursing home proposal. They still had some commercial, and they had some office too, which is our most intense office development zoning district. It had a medical office building, 150 senior apartments. Sorry, again, I can't read it. 57 senior detached, 344 attached, for a total of 581 homes. They had a medical office building in addition to that, 6 acres of commercial. The property was rezoned. And I guess I want to be clear about what this means in relation to tonight's plan, as well as what somebody could do as it is right now. The annexation agreement for this expired. But regardless of whether the annexation agreement expires, the underlying zoning that has been rezoned to stays. So if somebody came to the city right now with a plan that met the current zoning boundaries as they are laid out on our zoning map and on this project's agreement, the City Council and the Plan Commission would have no choice but to approve it, because every property owner has property rights. I have a property right as an R1 single-family property owner to build a single-family home on my property. The city and nobody else can tell me that I can't. If you have the rights within a permitted use for those, you have the right to build it. So I want to be clear that, you know, these plans that come up, they aren't just simply something that we can hope will go away forever. Because somebody will ultimately say, hey, I've got rights, I don't really have to go through much of a process, and nobody can tell me no, essentially, because I have this right to build this product here. Our O2 uses today are more intensive than what they were in 2011. We allow distribution buildings. I'm not saying that that is what was proposed for this, nor if that site was even big enough. I'm just simply saying that those are uses and changes that have occurred in our O2 district that would be allowed under this current zoning. C2, not that it has too many widely different changes from what they were back then, and R3, which is currently on the site and currently being requested. R2 is currently on the site and currently being requested in generally the same layout as what you see. R1 is basically what is being requested in this plan and was also requested back then. So I just want to be clear about what existing zoning rights mean related to development on this site. In 2018, a new developer, because that project never went forward, the developer never advanced the project, but they did get all the approvals and the property was rezoned. Serenity Landing came in with 318 apartments, 180 single-family detached, 106 single-family attached, 604 total housing units, and 21 acres of commercial. The concept plan proposal for this was withdrawn. So this never advanced any further than just the submittal itself. And that was a developer choice. In 2021, the Serenity Landing subdivision that is primarily currently before you tonight was approved as a concept plan. It included 288 apartments, 223 single-family detached, 134 single-family attached, for a total of 645 housing units. This concept plan proposal was approved. It was extended one time, but it did expire. At the time, the way this property ownership arrangement is currently in place is the current property owners have hired another developer who is more experienced in getting housing projects built. They do not have that experience in their portfolio. but they saw an opportunity back in probably 2014 to be able to develop something on this property, so they purchased it, but they engaged a developer for that. So they have actually been looking for a development partner. There was no one that was found, and because of our concept plan requirements, you can only extend it one time, and so it did expire. And we had also asked them to do a fairly significant amount of existing utility research to identify the condition of all the existing utilities that you saw on that previous screen, whether or not they were usable, whether or not they were functional. So they had to go through and televise all of the different utility pipes that run throughout the site so that we could have a better understanding and they could have a better understanding for what could be reused, what couldn't be reused, and that gives them some clarity on cost and some general layout parameters as well. What you see on your site or on the plan on your screen, as well as what you see in your packet for the current proposal, is what we would consider conceptually the same. All of the land uses are in generally the same location. Most of these plans nearly follow the original Fox Hollow design, almost verbatim, except for when you get closer to Briggs Street. They all have the different housing types all in the same locations that they have. The public park is located in the same place as where it was originally in Fox Hollow. The Park District has accepted this size and the location of it, and they have submitted a letter accordingly. So in 2025, where we are today, in the upper right-hand corner, and there will be a bigger graphic available in the next slide, you see what the current proposal is. And then what you have on your screen, I just outlined again to show in today's aerial photo where all of that work had occurred in 2008. So what you see in green dashed lines is where all the mass grading has occurred. Today, you might go out there and think it's wooded, it's forested, all of that is scrub trees that grew up based on weeds. So there's a lot of pear that you see as weed trees out there. There's a lot of other stuff that just simply floats in or animals bring it in. It is not native to the area. It's not really creating a native habitat or environment, but it was mass graded back then, and those topsoil mounds still reside there. The detention ponds still are there. They still function. Our current zoning code with Will County stormwater ordinance has made changes since 2007, and the development proposal before you tonight makes those changes to enhance the stormwater system on the site to accommodate the higher levels of protection that the Will County stormwater ordinance currently requires. Both roads are in place still. They are, I'm sure the church would be happy to tell you, they are in awful condition. The city never accepted those roads because they were never finalized. They only have what's called a binder course on them, which is just the base course of asphalt. They never put the finish coat on it. The curbs are in bad condition, and many people, especially those that attend the church on the corner, obviously recognize that they have continued for 18 years to not have any connection to Briggs Street. That was an original promise, but because the development never went forward, Will County never allowed them to connect to Briggs Street. So they have been utilizing Geneva Street as well as Fox Hollow Boulevard to get to the church for those durations and have just never been able to have access. This project will make that connection and is part of the Phase 1 plans that will do that. On this slide, this is what is being proposed before you tonight. This is the current Serenity Landing proposal. Again, it is in conformance with the concept plan, even though the concept plan is expired. It has 212 single-family detached homes. It has 181 single-family attached homes, 240 apartments, 633 total housing units, and a 1.76 acre commercial site. Could be subdivided into two. It all depends on what the use is that will come. What I show on your screen here is the developer has laid it out in different units based on the type of product that's being developed on those units. So you will see Unit 1, which is in essence in the top of the screen, surrounded by a red line, and to the right of that is Unit 1 description. It has 67 detached single-family homes, plus the 5-acre public park, plus the road improvements. Unit 2 is in the far left, closer to Brick Street. Those are the apartment locations. Unit 3A is directly east of where the apartments are located. Those are townhomes. They will also likely include a clubhouse for the apartments as well in that upper left-hand corner of that unit specifically. Unit 3B is directly to the east of 3A. That has 64 attached single-family homes. Unit 4A, which is directly east of 3B, that has 73 detached single-family homes. And then lastly, Unit 4B to the east is 72 detached single-family homes. Phase 1 will incorporate both the road connection to Brick Street. It will include the final surfacing on Fox Hollow Boulevard, the final surfacing on Geneva, the final surfacing down to Oak Street. It will include Units 4A, which are the attached single-family homes. It will include Unit 1, which are the detached single-family homes. It will include improvements to the stormwater system as well as the public park to be built in the first phase, so that as soon as somebody is able to move into the community, they have a park to be able to use. One of the things that we look at with a plan development is how the design aligns with our design guidelines, which for reference is our Appendix B in the zoning code under our plan development requirements. So we look for what we call cluster design. There are 6 distinct neighborhoods within the overall development. We look for short walkable blocks throughout the vicinity. We have worked with them to try and make sure that people can walk in shorter loops. One thing that people don't like to do is to walk 1,000 feet somewhere and have no way to circumnavigate back to where their house is in successive shorter loops, depending on how far they can walk without just simply turning around. And we want a variety of housing types. In this case, as I've explained, we have detached, attached, at various lot and home sizes. We have townhomes, we have apartments, and then we have the commercial lots as well. Open space is another big important component of our design guidelines. This project, of the 183 acres total, has 80 acres of open space, which is 43% of the total site. This is far and away probably the most open space, except for Broken Arrow because of the golf course, that we have in our community. And there was a comment made about whether or not this is actually usable open space that can be used. All of these areas have bike paths that run through them. They all have viewing areas. I'm sure many of us remember as kids playing through creeks and playing in the woods. So even though it may not have a playground on it, you can still utilize all of the open space and more natural areas of the site along the northern edge of that eastern band and the north kind of extension up to Bruce as passive play. It doesn't have to be active play. The park district will develop that with playgrounds and with all the typical things that you would typically find in a more formal park. And then all the retention ponds have bike paths that go around them as well. They are all naturally native landscaped. These are not ones where turf just goes down to the edge of the pond. They have native landscapes, so again, just encouraging the appearance of a lot of open space. Walkability is another consideration. There are plus or minus 4 miles of bike paths, which will probably be the largest amount of bike paths that we have in any development in the city right now. Obviously, with the exception of the golf course cart path, but they don't allow other people to come onto the cart path. And then we have 8 miles plus or minus of sidewalks throughout the subdivision. And then these are some of those areas in the purple where some of those more passive activities can occur, as well as some of the active activities. And then here are all the bike paths are in red. They will be private on the inside of the development, so within the property lines of the development. On Farrell, Oak, Briggs, and Bruce, they will be public bike paths. The interior ones are 8 feet wide, the exterior ones, public ones, are 10 feet wide. Landscape, one of the comments that has carried through since 2007 is an awareness for making sure that we provide enough landscape buffer to the south along the south edge of the property. This this proposal has increased that the most of any of the proposals that we have had before us. There is a minimum 60-foot wide landscape buffer. That does not include the backyards or the common space for the townhomes or the backyards of the single-family detached homes. There is an inset graphic on your screen in purple that shows the density of the landscape. Lots of evergreen trees, lots of deciduous trees, lots of ornamental trees, trying to cover as much of that vertical visual as we can, not only to block visual sight into the neighborhood, but also to block any street lights that might be in those areas from crossing over. And again, our requirements require 0.0 foot candles at the property line. There may be some public street lights like there are now at the Oak Briggs intersection, but we do not have street lights running all the way down Oak Street as public street lights. And there is, in the purple band that just popped up, that is where the landscape buffer is. That is not defining the landscape buffer. What you see in the green is that specific landscape buffer. That purple band is just simply outlining the area in which it falls. The proposed zoning, and this, I underlaid the 2011 plan to show the comparison between the two. So the current proposed zoning for this project is the R1 to the far east, the R2 primarily in the center of the development, the R3 directly to the west of that, the R4 directly to the west of that, up against Briggs and bordering on Oak to the south, and then the C2 commercial parcel that is kind of in that corner right by the traffic circle by the church. This is the original 2011, the current zoning that currently lays over the plan that is in our zoning code and was approved back in 2011. This is the overlay of what that is, and I'll just go back real quick. So it's a little bit hard to see, but the yellow that is on the right is R1 zoning. The tan that is in the middle of the plan is the R2 zoning. There are two pieces that kind of match like two hands. There's purple on the top, that is the O2 zoning from the current zoning, and the brown to the south of that is the R3 zoning. That is the ability to put up to 8 units together in a townhome building. It doesn't really have to do with height or anything like that. It's really just the number of units that can be combined together. So that is where the R3 currently is on the site, and then the area to the left that looks rather dusty pink is where the C2 property was in that plan. This is the overlay for what is being proposed. The R1 is a little bit smaller, not much. The R2 is almost identical to what was originally proposed. The R3 has shifted a little bit because it now encompasses what was, or what currently is, O2 to be R3. And then the R4 has replaced the C2 with the exception of the 1.76 acre commercial lot that's being shown in the current plan. So that is kind of a geographic summary of zoning, our design guidelines, a number of those different types of things. There are a couple specific zoning modifications that are being requested as a part of this plan development. There is a reduction from 30 feet to 25 feet for the front yard setback, only in Unit 4B, which is the R1 section. And again, that goes back to our previous conversations about bulk requirements. There is an increase in the maximum lot coverage from 30 to 45%. They want to accommodate future homeowner improvements like gazebos. Those are becoming more popular today. We get a lot of building permits for gazebos in people's backyard. The reason why that's important over like a deck or a patio is that actually because it has a roof over it, it becomes a lot coverage issue. And so it essentially becomes like your house. And so we have to regulate it differently from what we would a patio or a deck or a swimming pool or items like that. In the R2 zoning, maximum lot coverage and impervious surface increase. This goes directly to that request for the zoning code change that we made in 2 cases prior to this. And then the exact same request in the R3 section for the townhomes. Architecture meets all of our guidelines that we have We believe that there is a very nice selection of architectural opportunities. I'll show you some pictures of what those will be a little bit later in the presentation. These are 5 of the 9 different models that they will offer, and this is only for phase 1. This is not for phases 2, 3, 3A, or 3B, and 4A and 4B. This is only for Unit 1 in the first phase. So they have 9 different models. These are first 5. These are the other 4. Each of these has 5 different elevations on them. So you could have up to 45 different styles applied across 67 homes. Is that a reality? Lots of times there are trends and people like to do the same thing. In those cases, we do also have what's called an anti-monotony clause as a part of our design guidelines. It's a part of their annexation agreement where they can't put the same house with the same colors directly adjacent to each other. They have to be different to create that variety along the streetscape. What you see here are the townhome elevations. They have 2 primary elevations and then a whole host of different material for the masonry choices, and then also color varieties of the siding, the window color, and the roof framing that you have on there. Findings of fact. This is something that we talked about a couple meetings ago related to a special use permit. These are components that the Plan Commission has already reviewed. They have adopted these findings of fact and passed them on to you for your review and acceptance as well. I'm not going to go through these exhaustively. I know that many of you have watched the Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. I know that many people in the audience sat through the Plan and Zoning Commission meeting where I did go through these in a fair amount of detail, but I will make some highlights, and I'm happy to come back to this if you have any questions or want to talk about any one of them further. First one is about the building or use being necessary or desirable to provide a service or facility in the public interest and contributing to the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. We found 4 different items, variety of for sale and rental opportunities. There's little development in this area of town. It can help balance other areas while being closer to utilities than places to the east of town, such as our sanitary and treatment plant. This is by a factor of half closer to our sanitary and treatment plant than Sadie Ridge, Silo Bend, many of the other developments. So it's actually a closer run to get to those utility plants than it is for some of the developments that we've had recently. It is sensitive to the surrounding area because of the extensive open space and the buffers that are provided, and the commercial opportunity will provide something that really does not exist in this area today, all the way up to roughly Burcott's or over to CVS or downtown, and all the way south to when you get to Route 6. So there is a rather dearth of commercial opportunities. This offers that to have some little level of neighborhood commercial to be able to be provided. This one is about adverse impacts, character, traffic conditions, utility facilities, other matters affecting public health, safety, and welfare. We talked a lot about the fact that this had already planned and begun construction 18 years ago. There is a lot of unfinished mass grading, the topsoil mounds, the utilities already being in, a few private but failing roads that are already in place. Improving all those would be a definite improvement to the neighborhood. And I know that the church would be thankful to have real roads that go to their facility. There is sufficient capacity available in both our water and sanitary system. We covered that at the Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. And the development is improving all 4 surrounding public streets with left turn lanes, new surfacing for the entire length of Oak Avenue, and a potential future light at Oak and Briggs. And that was required by Will County DOT. That is not a city requirement, but we are willing to obviously take their opinion because Briggs Street is their road. It is not the city of Lockport's road. This is about how the area is designed and laid out to permit the use of neighboring properties. The properties to the east are already residential and complete. Properties to the south can be developed as they are within their current zoning, or with a change if they so chose. Properties to the west can be developed as they are, or seek commercial designation with a new customer base that would be provided by Serenity Landing. And the properties to the north are already zoned and annexed as an unbuilt extension of Lago Vista. Lago Vista's property, that whole natural area natural area is a relative term, that goes from Bruce Road all the way up to Lago Vista Boulevard, that also had all the mass grading started, retention ponds put in, roads cut, lots started to be mass graded out. That ultimately stopped again during the recession. And so that is what is north of there, but it is already zoned, it was already planned to be built as residential in those areas. This next finding of fact about the proposed plan is consistent or not consistent with the stated purpose of the plan development regulation. This is very similar to what we talked about before related to the city's design guidelines, talking about shorter street segments, consistent entry features, multiple entry. Sorry, my voice is starting to leave me. I'll pop a cough drop.
Take your time, man.
Dispersed traffic, trails throughout the centralized accessible park, the naturalized detention areas, and significant densely landscaped buffer areas. This next one is how it departs from the zoning and subdivision regulations otherwise applicable to the subject property. Basically, the modification requests are reasonable and few in number. These are specific to those variations for the distances and bulk requirements, the 25 from 30, the percentages for maximum and impervious. They are consistent with decisions made by the City Council on previous subdivisions, and they are reflective of the issues that we have had related to townhome platting. This next one is related to the way that the proposed plan meets the requirements and standards of the plan development regulations. So for a plan development, there are additional standards that we go through to evaluate a plan development submittal. There are 4 of them: modifications from the district regulations, design standards, standards for open space and signage. These are consistent with what I have mentioned before in a prior slide. This is related to the physical design of the proposed plan development and the manner in which the design does or does not make adequate provision for public services, adequate control over vehicular traffic, protect designated planned open space in schools, and further the amenities of light and air, recreation, and visual enjoyment. Site is already connected to our utility system. You saw a number of the pipes that were already included. This has been in planning for our overall city sanitary capacity studies for years. When we do a study, we include all of the currently zoned and annexed properties in those studies to study capacity, as well as strategic, currently unannexed, unzoned parcels that we believe may have a high likelihood of being annexed. Typically, they are kind of holes in the donut, meaning there's a development like Victoria Crossings East, and there's empty land to the west. So we have the treatment plant way over here to the west, Victoria Crossings to the east. There is a likelihood that land in between those will be developed for something. So we include those into our capacity so that we know that they can be handled in the future. The center turn lanes, as mentioned before, on Bruce, Briggs, Farrell, and the resurfacing of Oak and the reconstruction of Briggs, the future signal, if it's ever warranted. And that's a caveat. I do want to explain that really quickly. So Will County is not requiring the signal in Phase 1. In fact, it may not ever need to be required, but they have requested it if the traffic warrants at that intersection ever meet IDOT's and Will County's standards for traffic signals. They call it a warrant. I would just call it standard for easy terminology so that everybody kind of gets a sense for what that is. The developer has agreed and Will County has accepted that they will update the traffic study after each phase of the development to evaluate whether or not those warrants have been met. Once those warrants have been met, the developer would be required to install that traffic signal, or the city would work with the county to install it, the developer has a financial obligation that they would be required as a part of the annexation agreement to contribute to the cost of installing that signal. LTHS and the Park District have provided letters of support based on their student forecasts. Fairmount, we've had a number of conversations with them over a number of months. They are currently studying capital and operations. I know that Dr. Daniel spoke at the last Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. She expressed some of her thoughts related to their student current counts and the fact that they are evaluating what this development would bring to them. We have provided them a number of different numbers for their evaluation ongoing into that process.
Lance, if I could go back to that other slide, I just want to chime in. We did get some other feedback from the county that they would like a separate IGA between the city and the county in regards to the signal. It's all the same terms that are in the annexation agreement. It's just the county is not party to the annexation agreement. That's between the city and the developer and the owner. So we've agreed to that, and I'll add that as an action item on 1217 to go concurrently with this. So.
This one is related to the compatibility of the proposed plan development with the adjacent properties. And again, this goes back to 2007. It goes back to 2011. It was approved at that time with the conditions as they currently were then, and there are no real substantial differences between what they were then for the surrounding property and what they are today. And so, you know, you follow those findings of fact from here to there, and the conditions are roughly the same, and we believe, as our findings from a staff perspective, that all of the conditions in existence then are the same as they are now. We have worked extensively with the applicant based on past proposal comments from neighbors to integrate the more dense landscaping and buffering along the south edge, lighting provisions, because I know that that was a concern that has been brought up more time, preserving additional open space from what previous plans had recommended. We have removed the industrial uses from this plan, and we have added significantly more bike paths, both within the development as well as on the exterior streets. The physical development and economic well-being of the entire community. The development of this site will revive an abandoned site that has construction started in many parts, but a lot of it has started to fail. They are privately owned streets, and with no revenue being generated, it's very difficult to take care of a privately owned street when you have no way to actually fund it. So that is a challenge, and being able to complete this project would allow, of course, for those streets to be finished and to be able to be usable. The development of this site, providing a new base of customers, would begin additional South Lockport commercial. That is a bridge from East Joliet to Lockport's commercial areas and provide much needed services to the area. I am shocked, and I'm sure that many of you would be as well, to know how many of our customers at our Walmart come from East Joliet. I don't want to say it's the primary audience that goes to Walmart in Lockport, but it is a significant number of people that make the trip from East Joliet to go to the Walmart on this side, whether that's because they don't want to cross the river and all the things that go on with the river, the bridges, the backups, and all that kind of stuff. But we get a significant amount of traffic that goes up to Walmart from here. This offers that opportunity to be somewhat of a bridge, to be there for some normal everyday services that they may not have closer to their home. This is another big one related to the proposed plan's conformity with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan of the city. This is a near identical match for the comprehensive plan of what the city had adopted in 2021. There are really no differences in the street layout, the zoning locations, the commercial locations, the types of units. The one difference on here is the inclusion of some apartments along Brick Street. The overall density is the same. The comprehensive plan recommends 1.6 to 2.5 units per acre on the east end of the property. That's currently what we have. 2.6 to 3.5 units per acre and 3.6 to 6 units per acre in those central areas. That is the orange and the brown on your screen. And the overall density of 3.45 units per acre is in alignment with the comprehensive plan as well. There were some comments at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that I did kind of summarize at the end of the public comment area, but I do want to make sure that you all have the chance to hear these as well. There may be some comments tonight about these, but I wanted to kind of go over what we looked at and what we shared with the community as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. During that response, there were some questions about who pays for the public improvements. All the public improvements are paid for and installed by the developer. The length of Oak Avenue being resurfaced, the turn lanes on Bruce, the Briggs reconstruction, the Farrell Road center turn lanes that provide dedicated into Willow Walk as well as into Serenity Landing. And that's also inclusive of all of the internal streets, the rebuilding of Geneva Street and Fox Hollow Boulevard, all the trees, all the sidewalks, all the lights. Those are all developer responsibilities. As I noted in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we do charge what's called a street maintenance impact fee. So every house that gets built within the community pays a street impact fee. That amount is based on the type of house. It's based on how many bedrooms are in that house. Generally, they're all the same, but it's differentiated between a detached single-family home, an attached single-family home, and an apartment unit. We charge those because at some point in the future, the city is going to need to be able to maintain some of those streets. In the first tax year, for anybody who's built a new home, you get your tax bill and you're like, wow, you know, my tax bill is only like $600. Well, that's because your home is paid a year in arrears. So last year, your house didn't exist. It was a farm field or a under construction property, and you didn't have a house on it until the next year. So there's a delay in there. We may need to go in as a public body and repair curbs, replace some asphalt, do other things. That helps to bridge those gaps. We have impact fees that cover the school districts, both the high school and the grade school. We have impact fees that cover the park district. We have impact fees that cover the library district and the fire district. All of those get impact fees, and we also charge an impact fee to tap onto our water system and to tap onto our sewer system. So the city has 3, the schools get 2 each. One is for a land cash value. The other one is for a facility fee. Can be used for capital improvements. They can be used for additional land or improvements to land that they need to make to accommodate any influx of students during that gap period where there may be less tax money coming in to be able to cover some of those that they may need to start a building project sooner than what they would otherwise do if they didn't have this. From a water capacity standpoint, all of these zoned, annexed, and certain unannexed parcels, as I kind of described before, with a high likelihood of development were included in past capacity analysis. And Brian would be happy to respond to this if you do have a question. But we are very comfortable with the capacity that we have to be able to meet all the needs of this development. The addition of well 15, which is our deep water well, has provided a significant amount of capacity that currently flows through our entire city. From a sewer capacity and treatment plant standpoint, as I explained at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there is a treatment plant expansion that is just getting ready to go underway, and that also includes a significant modernization to our 60-ish plus year-old plant that has not been modernized in those 60 years, outside of some replacement parts and things like that. Those studies have been occurring over the past 5 years. All the zoned, annexed, and unannexed parcels that were mentioned for the water were also included in those studies. So we have no concerns about being able to serve the capacity. And again, this is half the distance to our treatment plant that many of our other developments are at. Limitations on commercial space. This was a comment that came up from one of the residents related to, is there an opportunity to provide limitations to what kind of commercial uses could go on that 1.76 acre commercial parcel? At the time, I said that there have been occurrences in the past where we have written into annexation agreements some commercial exclusions that wouldn't allow for something like that to happen. I shared with the council earlier a potential list so that you could at least think about it, and I share that list on the screen today. I'm not going to go through the whole exhaustive list. I'm sure that many people can read it, but it relates to a lot of automobile uses, body art studios, car washes, cash for vehicle loans, currency exchange, liquor stores, fortune tellers, firearms, tobacco shops, contractor shops, indoors, self-storage. What would be allowed still is retail shops, offices, personal services, hairs, nails, medical, childcare, banks, other office uses that are available there. So I offer that for your consideration. That is something that we can incorporate into the annexation agreement, like we have for many other annexation agreements in the past. But given that it's a committee of the whole, you can certainly discuss that if you want, or give us direction for what you would or would not like to include as it relates to that. Electric and gas, there was a question as to whether or not electric or gas would be extended to the site. It is already on the site, but it would be extended to the remainder of Serenity Landing. Question about trails on private property. All the private property trails inside the property will be owned and maintained by the HOA, the Homeowners Association, and any public use would be at their discretion. They are responsible for maintaining those over time, so they should have some level of control over who gets to be on those. Any of the public ones surrounding it on the public streets, those would be for public use. So if someone wanted to ride from Willow Walk over along Oak Avenue or along the Farrow Road Trail, they could absolutely do that. If they wanted to ride along Bruce Road or they wanted to ride anywhere within the public right-of-way, that would be a possibility for them to be able to do. The findings of fact, there was a comment made about that many of the findings of fact rely on the 2007 and 2011 plans that are references, but if you read through all of them, most of them relate to today's current conditions in the plan that is before you today. Stormwater was another question, and how an old stormwater system could serve today's needs. We had the developer, the engineer, come up and answer that question. In essence, we agree. The Will County Stormwater Ordinance has been updated since 2007. This plan adds a number of other retention ponds to this to increase the capacity and the chance that overflow would be less. The goal for any stormwater plan as it relates to the Will County Stormwater Ordinance is that the runoff tomorrow, after this site is developed, is the same as the runoff today. So that we're not creating impacts downstream or upstream for an impact to a development. The addition of those retention ponds meets those increased thresholds that is provided for in the improvements to the Will County Stormwater Ordinance. Here's just simply a render plan. I can use this as a reference if there are any questions by the council or from the public for the public comment piece, but that is there. And just as a reference, by a vote of 4-1, one commissioner had to recuse himself, and a second one was absent that night. He had a family emergency that he could not get out of. The Planning and Zoning Commission adopted the findings of fact. They accepted the rezoning request, and they recommended approval of the final development plans as they were presented. And so our recommended motion is to place the ordinance and the resolution that were presented before you tonight on the next council meeting for action or consent. And with that, I'll take any questions you have. Certainly, Mayor, whatever you would like to do related to the cards that you have in front of you.
Sure.
I don't know who answers this question. One of the problems we had with Fox Hollow was, back in 2007, was that a performance bond was not required. Can you hear me now? So back in 2007, one of the issues was that a performance bond was not required. Thus, there wasn't any way that the city could be made whole, or whatever the term would be, when things were done. So will we have a performance bond requirement with this development?
Yeah, so we require, as a part of our, when they get their permits to start site construction, they are required to post a letter of credit from a bank that says, if we default on this project, just like in 2008, if the developer goes bankrupt, walks off the job, they have to post that letter of credit, and the bank is required to provide all of that money. That amount is 110% of the engineer's opinion of probable costs for all of the private, or all of the public improvements that are shown on the site. Every street, every sidewalk, every tree, every light, every public bike path, all of those things have a cost. I don't remember the amount offhand, but it is in somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million. So if this developer does the same thing as what happened in 2008, the city could go in and finish Fox Hollow Drive and Geneva Street and make that accessible. We could continue to work with the county to see if they would connect to Briggs Street, because we would have the funds to do that. As many of you know, once the project is fully complete and the city has inspected, evaluated, and approved accepting the public improvements, we reduce that letter of credit and they post a 12-month maintenance bond. That amount is 10% of that engineer's opinion of probable cost. And we hold that for 12 months to make sure that everything that they have installed lasts during that 12-month period, to give the city, our residents, you as council members, our Plan and Zoning Commission members confidence that what was installed meets our standards, will stand up to winter, weather, whatever it is. Once that is accepted after that 12-month period, we release that last bond and those improvements become the city's full on.
Okay, second question is for the city attorney. So, Lance stated earlier that due to property owner rights, that we, and the decisions that were made in the past, that we essentially have an obligation to go ahead and approve this. My question is, or maybe I misunderstood what Lance said, but my question for the attorney is, what happens should we say no to this development?
Well, what Lance said earlier was the plans that were approved, even though the annexation agreement expired and is no longer in place, the zoning remains in place as approved by the city council. If someone came in with the exact same type of plan, for one glaring example would have been that O2 that Lance mentioned, and they wanted to put that there, you couldn't say, well, I don't want O2 there. You already had approved O2. So if it were permitted use, they would be entitled to develop that land. If you rejected a plan that was within that permitted use in the zoning classification that you had already approved, it would potentially have a cause of action against the city for an unconstitutional taking, because you're saying you can't use the land that we already said in the same way that we already said that you can. So we're talking slightly about two different things. Now, they're coming in with a new planned development, which is a special use under our code, and that's why we're here on the first ordinance and resolution, or the ordinance for the special use, and the resolution for part of the development plans tonight. And potentially, you could say, nope, we don't like that new development, but what I think a court would look at is how drastically different than what you already approved is this development. And if you saw the overlay that Lance showed, other than the fact it's removed that O2, which could be cumbersome on the city, like Lance mentioned earlier, because of what we now allow in O2, you've removed that. So with the exception, I think, maybe of the apartments along Briggs, there really isn't a lot significantly different. So, and that's one of the reasons why my item is next, because if you were to say no to the special use and the plan development and the plans, the development plans that you're talking about here, then my item to approve the new annexation agreement to match up with that would be moot. So that's why we always put that part second, because if you say no to the first part, not that we're making a decision tonight, and I want the public to be aware of that as well, the public hearing on this, the only public hearing on this was at the Planning and Zoning Commission. So this is for you to discuss and you can still, certainly it's a public meeting, you could take public comment, but the hearing part of this is gone, and now we're here more to flesh out, are there questions from the council members that we need to go back to the developer with, or they need to come back with to help you make your final decision at the next meeting. But to answer your question, it would really depend on, again, like we talked about in our special meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission members, what justification you gave for saying no. And if that justification didn't match up, for example, because the development that's being proposed here is significantly similar to the prior development, is there really a basis for you to reject it? And I hope that answers your question. So it's really on any kind of case challenging zoning decisions, is it reasonable and within your discretion? And you already had approved this once. If your answer is, no, I'm going to vote no once you get to the vote at the next meeting, again, like I talked about in our joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission, you should have justification for why you disagree with the finding of fact. I noticed the sample motion said adopt the staff's findings, but really now they're the Planning and Zoning Commission's findings of fact. So if you were to vote no, hypothetically, on the planned unit development, which is a special use, you want to have the justification as to why you feel that the findings of fact that either your fellow council members or the PZC or staff had suggested are not in line with the way you view the product and the project. Does that make sense?
So if somebody says, or if a vote is, I just don't want it, would that be considered a proper finding of fact?
No. And in fact, I kind of harped on that at our joint meeting, which is we cannot make zoning decisions based on feelings. I don't want another mattress store. Well, it's a permitted use. You really can't say no. I'm okay with this type of business, but I don't want it here. I want it down the block. Now you're telling one property owner what they can or can't do, and you're telling another property owner what you want them to do. That's not a proper finding. I just don't want it is not a proper finding. The finding of fact would have to be that you disagree with the fact that it's in harmony with the comprehensive plan, or it's in harmony with the adjoining properties, or you disagree that it ties into our utilities properly, et cetera. So you'd have to have your own finding of fact. I don't want it does not cover it. Just like if you look at what Lance was kind of just highlighting with brushstrokes tonight, these findings of fact were much more detailed at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and he only touched on some of the bullet points. You can't just have the top one that's in our code, which is also in the state statute, and just call that your finding of fact. You have to have those bullet points beneath it to support why you feel it's harmonious, or why you feel it's not going to impact an adjoining property, et cetera, beyond just the statutory code or state statute language. You have to have further findings of fact to support your decision.
So those further findings of fact, it isn't up to an individual. It would be up to what, 60% of the council to have new findings of fact,
Right. I answered your first question, Alderman, with if you as an individual alderman wanted to vote no, what would be the best way to do that? The second part of that question I think you're now asking is, if the entirety of the city council wanted to vote no on this, yes, they'd have to adopt new findings of fact. If there's a vote that comes from the PZC saying we recommend this be approved, and the ultimate aim of the city council was to not approve it, yes, you would have to adopt new findings of fact. And that's one of the reasons why this committee of the whole is helpful, not just for you to hear what the public has to say, but for us to hear your questions, because if the marching orders between now and 2 weeks from now are that we wanted to vote no, we would have to help you develop, or you would have to do it on your own, those findings of fact to say why these that are contained in your packet are not valid or not what you believe to be true. Does that make sense?
thank you.
Sure.
I'll add one other just thing like that, because I know that there was a mention at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting about the findings of fact not being in the packet. They were in the staff report, starting on page 2 or 3, and they are much more detailed than what I showed here, both on the screen as well as what I described. I know that all of you have looked at those as well. The other best way to explain your question related to permitted use and approving or not approving that I find is easiest to communicate is if you bought a vacant lot, it's zoned for a single family house, you walk into the building department and you say, I want to build a single-family house, and we say no, that's illegal. So when we talk about permitted or special usage or things like that, those are the things that we're getting to, and property rights. So I have a right to build a house on my residentially zoned property so long as it meets the standards of the city. That's typically the easiest way that I try and describe it to people. It just is at a factor significantly more when you have a development like this.
And just to add on that real quickly, that's when Lance was mentioning earlier, the difference between the ordinance, which affects the zoning, and the resolution that talks about the plans. So
that could be a resolution in that instance. But if it's a single-family home that's all on one lot, it's all of these standards, you can't get to that. But that would be the difference between the resolution for the design versus the ordinance for the zone. If that makes sense.
So a couple questions. And if this isn't I apologize for asking another question. So if the development, is it going to start closer to Farrell or is it starting closer to Briggs?
So phase one is that unit one that is close to Bruce.
Bruce.
Stretches down straight south to the park.
Okay.
That's in the middle of the development.
Yep.
And then kind of skews to the southwest to incorporate. And I wish I had a pointer on this, but I don't. So if you look at the plan on your screen,
Yep.
There is a phasing plan in the packet, but I'm not going to go all the way back to it.
Yep.
If you look on your screen, that extension that goes up to Bruce to the north, that is 67 single-family detached homes.
Okay.
That is part of phase one, including the additional retention that would be in there, the bike paths, all of those components. The olive green park that's shown in the middle of that is also included in that phase one improvement. And then the townhomes that are kind of on the other side of that long retention basin, the blue retention basin, those are a part of phase one.
Okay, so that's closer to Briggs than it is.
Closer to Briggs, yes.
Okay, because that was my question, because obviously we have a, that corner of Oak and Farrell, is it's historically been an issue. So it's one of those things I wanted to look at regardless of the traffic flow, because it's an issue. Question I do have is, if part of this is part of this considering that unit 2, if we change to allow apartments? Is that what that was, or was that already zoned and that was already?
No, that is definitely a change in the zoning. That is probably the one truest change that this plan presents. What was originally there back in the go-go days of commercial development of 2007, 2008, was a deeper commercial, something like you might find in like a mid-box if you put in your mind TJ Maxx or something like that. Smaller but still big, that has the whole parking field in front of it, and then the outlots in front of it.
Gotcha.
Those days are gone, as you can see in Lockport Square, that we've been sitting on for the same amount of time. Where we've gotten the outlots developed, but the back has been challenged. That's why that commercial has shrunk, and the apartments offered an opportunity to have fewer kids, and also a different type of product.
Well, and with that, my question is, I'm assuming, I shouldn't say I'm assuming, I would think that we would look at like what is the need from a capacity perspective of apartments in this area, and I'm assuming this is not what do we say, over capacity for what the demand is.
Right.
Assuming.
We had done an apartment study, I don't know what, Ben, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah, Tracy
to kind
Croft
of when Highland Ridge came through, which is up at Archer and 355, we did a study because we wanted to know, is this a viable product, and how many of these, quote unquote, the new style of 240 plus or minus apartments, because that's what allows property management finances to work, and a clubhouse, maintenance, operating, all that kind of stuff to work. How many of these could we accommodate within the city? At the time, they said 3 at most. So Highland Ridge was the first one. The Springs, which is under construction right now, is the second one, which they have occupancy for 90 units, soon to be 120, and quickly thereafter to be about 170 units. They are leasing very quickly. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have all 90 units filled here within a month or so.
So we're looking at a situation where, you know, again, I'm just, what's the word? Not concerned, but looking at what, like, price point.
Yep.
And ensuring that we're not going to be looking at a situation with the population sort of getting older in all the wrong spots in our county.
Yep.
And just ensuring that we're not going to overbuild on the apartment piece of things.
Well, and the good news about a planned development is there is some level of flexibility. So if that occurs, let's just say that they build the two townhome pods, 3A and 3B, and they say, man, townhomes are just really successful here. They could come back to the city council and request a change of the apartments.
So they would have the flexibility to do that.
To additional townhomes. They have to return to you because in our plan development code, that is what would qualify as a major change to the plan development.
Well, that offers me a level of comfort too.
Yeah, and so there is absolutely that opportunity, and especially with a development this big, markets change. This is probably a 10-plus year build-out.
Yeah.
This is not all going to occur. I mean, Silo Bend built out their 249 units, 3 phases in 3.5 years. So that is a little less than a third of what we're talking about here. So if you extrapolate 3.5 years over another 3.5 pieces, you're at 10, 11 plus years. And I can't tell you what the market's going to be like in 5 years, much less 9 or 10.
Well, and just related to the traffic, you know, going down Oak, actually both those east-west, so Bruce and Oak, you know, the question I have is, I mean, Oak has a tendency to be used as a landing strip, it sounds like most times, because it's a straight shot and, you know, people just go. Is there any way to interrupt traffic there?
Well, that is one of the benefits of us having jurisdiction over it.
Okay.
Is if we find, and we do this often, because this will be the first time that there are actual street entrances off of Oak Street,
Correct.
which inherently creates some level of slowness because you do have people that are entering
Correct.
the street, that we can evaluate whether or not a stop sign is required at any of those intersections.
Okay.
It may be at the main exit out of the park area that comes to the south. One of the other things that we like about having a couple more access points on Oak is it helps to disperse the traffic. I'm sure many of you have been caught on Farrell Road. Broken Arrow has no other way to get out. Redwood has no other way to get out. Willow Walk has one other way to get out. Oak Creek has one other way to get out.
Right.
And so, you know, we don't really have a lot of access points to help disperse traffic.
Correct.
It's one of the differences between development post World War II and pre-World War II is just the number of street intersections that oftentimes creates that safety factor.
Well, and then I would hope at some point that we would look at that intersection. I mean, even as it grows, and I would mean like within like the first phase, because that's a two-way stop currently, and it's just a very dangerous intersection. So I would like that. I mean, if this could be part of it, if they're going to put a study together on Briggs, I'd like them to do the same thing on Farrell.
Well, that study would be the entire development.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so every time one phase is done, the traffic study for the development will be updated to reflect
All
the
those
current
those
traffic
points. Got it.
that is
Okay.
being developed. And so
Perfect.
at those points, there could absolutely be a recommendation for a stop sign at
Okay.
any one of those locations.
All right. Thank you for that litany of questions.
Yeah.
Anyone else got questions? I had a couple. You answered my one about kind of the estimated build out, 9 to 10 years it sounds like. So, well, you guys mentioned that there was architectural styles in phase 1, but no mention of it in the future. How does that relate to I mean, obviously, they still have to come to within our guidelines. There's no, I want to make sure there's no opportunity to come with like inferior products or anything like that. I just want to clarify that they have to hold to the standards.
So in the annexation agreement, which again, as Mike alluded to, is next on your agenda, there are requirements, architectural standard requirements that mirror our design guidelines that relate to material, that relate to design quality, that relate to all those things specifically. They are held to that, as well as any successor. So if for some reason NVR decides that they are done building here, anybody that buys the remainder of the lots from them has to meet those architectural standards. One of the things that we take pretty seriously is we want to make sure that people's adjacent property values, to the degree possible, from a quality of construction and appearance, are maintained. Can never control somebody's property maintenance outside of code enforcement and stuff like that, but at least what's built and becomes permanent for the most part, we want to make sure it has a similar level of quality and expectation as what an earlier phase would have.
Okay. And, I mean, as far as the limitations on the commercial space, I mean, it's something we'll have to talk about. That's a very common list of what we've done elsewhere. I have no problem adopting that, if that's, okay. All right. So no other questions up here before we get to cards? Okay.
No, that would be the full exclusion list.
Okay.
That is not the full list of available uses. That's why I put those two on the screen. I wanted to make sure I specifically listed what we would exclude in the annexation agreement as a use, and then also show you, just so you don't think, oh my gosh, you know, is anything left to be able to be developed there? I wanted to make sure that you knew that there was also retail, offices, daycares, different things like that, that are typically found to be more amenable for a new community or a community that is in some situation like this to be able to be located here.
Can that list ever get altered?
So the excluded list
That's what I'm talking about.
would need to come before City Council if somebody wanted to change that. An example of that is the Murphy's gas station. So if you'll remember in LFI's agreement, that's the commercial property on Farrell Road where Panda Express is located, Kitty Academy is under construction. Murphy Express was really the first development as a part of the Rose Lockport Center. When they came through, gas stations were an excluded use on their annexation agreement. They came through the City Council to request if the City Council, given changes in the commercial uses around the area, different access points, would consider removing a gas station from that excluded list so that they could develop the Murphy's gas station. The City Council at the time agreed to that, and we have Murphy's gas station there today.
The only reason why I'm asking is, you know, a few years ago we had just an explosion of vape shops. And, you know, what if there's something that's coming up that we find to be not a good fit for the city? Can we go ahead and amend that list?
Well, I mean, if it's specific to vape shops, smoke shop and tobacco shop are on that list.
But as an example.
But something in the future that I can't imagine right now we have the list as it is. If there is something that's presented to us at a staff level that isn't on that list, it's inherently prohibited.
Okay.
And so, but that oftentimes prompts us coming to you to say, hey, this is a new use that has never been on our list. We need your input as to whether or not you want to add it to our permitted list or our special use list or keep it prohibited. And so we bring those things to you periodically when there is a new kind of retail, office, whatever it is, type of use that we could never envision. I'm sure that if you looked at the original 1978 zoning code, there would be a whole lot of uses in that table that don't exist today, and probably a whole lot that exists today that never existed back then.
All right, well, I can move on to cards. I'll just say a couple things about this piece of property. I mean, as long as I've been doing this job, it's been sitting there. It's unusual in that all the roads were put in and it was ready to rock and roll, and it's just been a tough piece of property to develop, for a variety of reasons. And, you would have thought once roads were put in, it was a done deal back in the day, but you never know how things play out. And even a developer today, is willing to take a risk on it and, do it in phases and see how it plays out. These kind of things are always risky for everyone, and it's these are tough things, but they have the zoning rights, as been explained a number of times. And, I get it. You have an empty lot in a neighborhood, you want to build your house, it doesn't matter that the neighbors on either side, that's where their fire pit is, and their kids play stickball in the empty lot. It's not your lot, right? And so unless you buy it, it's kind of like, we're beholden to the zonings and what goes on there. The other thing about this piece of property that I could say in the last 13 years is that we've turned down or spoke against a number of residential developments as they pertain to unannexed properties. We've had a number of developers come in, want to annex pieces, and kind of the response has always been like, look, I still have a lot of obligations for existing residential that, before I bring on new stuff, kind of need to get this stuff out of the queue because it's always going to be there, right? And if there ever comes a point where, the population is getting to a place where it's problematic, which is not the case, but if that were, and then I'm obligating new zoning, it just didn't make sense. So we've oftentimes pushed stuff away because of property like this, and there's a couple other parcels that are still out there that have legacy zoning back from the very aggressive days of growth in the early 2000s. So seeing this finally done, and it'll take some time, so it's not going to be this huge boulder falling on top of all. It'll phase in a little bit. I think it's be good to get this off the docket finally and see it developed. All right, that said, we'll go to our comment cards. I got Dr. Daniels, Kenny Shepard. If you guys want to go up to the podium.
Good evening to everyone. All right, my name is Dr. Daniels, and I'm serving as the Superintendent of Fairmont School District 89. I'm here this evening with Mr. Shepard, our board president, and there are several other board members here tonight. First, we want to thank Mr. Teese and Mayor Street for the conversations and information that have been shared regarding the Serenity Landing development. We recognize and appreciate their efforts to assist the district with planning. And we also understand that each party involved has important responsibilities to carry out. We respect that work and value the collaboration. As the Fairmont Board of Education and Administration, our priorities are clear: to provide a high-quality education that prepares students for college and career readiness, and to remain fiscally responsible through sound decision-making. We understand the interest in moving forward with the project that has been under consideration since 2007. The proposed subdivision is anticipated to add approximately 150 students to our school district. While we welcome new families, the district does not yet have the sufficient information regarding the full financial implications, and not because they didn't share information, and costs associated with accommodating this growth. However, we do have several important facts. 49.92% of our district revenue comes from property taxes, and 88% of that is residential. 48.6% comes from government funding, including evidence-based funding at 21.86%, state funding at 17%, and federal funding at 9.79%. Interest income accounts at 0.66%, and other sources account for about 0.77%. We are facing decreases in EBF, as well as state and federal funding for the next school year. We are also aware of proposals that may further reduce funding for mandated categoricals such as special education and transportation. The district spent $1.2 million on outsourced special education services and will spend another $1.2 million this summer on significant boiler and HVAC projects. Any deficit created by reductions in state or federal funding will ultimately require local districts to make up the difference. In addition, Fairmont has 2 existing bonds, with the last expiring in 2039, giving the district's limited ability to pursue additional local funding. Through referenda, along with unpredictable state and federal funding, we must proceed cautiously. Potential impacts of this development could include, but are not limited to, again, those additional classroom additions to ensure safe and effective learning environments, increased staffing and expanded curriculum offerings, increased transportation needs, and personnel requirements due to the Illinois School Code mandates for students living more than 1.5 miles from school. Possible increases in special education services and related costs, including some specialized programs in and out of the district and specialized transportation. Also, additional operational costs such as materials, technology, and student support services. While the district does acknowledge it is projected to receive approximately $1.3 million in impact fees and an estimated $2.4 million in additional property tax revenue over time as the subdivision is built out, it is also important to emphasize that the responsibility to educate the students will be immediate. In other words, we must serve students as soon as they enroll, while the corresponding tax revenue may not be received for approximately 18 months. Impact fees will be realized more quickly as they are received as homes are completed, but we know they also have restrictions. With all of that said, we want to again thank Mr. Teese and Mayor Street for meeting with us and collaborating with us. Please know that Fairmont School District 89 remains committed to collaboration, transparency, fiscal responsibility, and the continued pursuit of high-quality educational opportunities for all of our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr.
Good evening. I'm not going to give you a lot more statistics than Dr. Daniels did. She gave you quite a bit. But when Steve, you talked, and Lance, when we talked a lot about that. This development's been on the board for 18 years, a lot of different reasons. And the question was also asked, why didn't you guys prepare better for those 18 years? Well, 18 years ago, Lago Vista was barely developed, and Fairmont was really struggling at that time. There was probably at that time Lago Vista was 25 to 30% at all developed. So the income was really a struggle at Fairmont. The past administration that was right before us did a great job of turning the school district around and getting us on board. And they have done an awesome job of getting us to where we can be financially responsible, which some school districts aren't. But we're a little bit more of a challenged school district, and I think that's because the finances that our resources are really limited. As she told you, 49% of our income is from property tax alone. 48% is government funding, which is made up by EBF, which is evidence-based funding, state and federal funding. The tough thing about the 48% is it's so uncertain right now. You'll be talking to a group of people tomorrow that say, are we going to get cuts in federal funding? Are we going to get cuts in state funding? It's really uncertain, and we're not going to give you all the statistics about special education and IEPs because that's out of control right now. But we told, I think, Mayor Steve and Lance, we never meant to put a black cloud on this project, but I said, you guys need to do your job, and we're going to do ours, which is just to stand up for the school district and say we've gotten to a good place, and we do not want to go backwards. We want to educate these students, but we're also going to be really cognizant of our financial status. And, you know, we talked a minute ago about studying the capital and operations impact, and that's what we've been doing. It's not that we didn't want to give answers and say what we felt, but we're very careful about studying what, if we get a special needs student, the cost is astronomical to somebody that comes without any special needs. I asked Dr. Daniel, can I share a figure? we had a board meeting a week or two ago, and I said, did you give me some facts that are not true, or are they're weird? Because we have 2 blind students that we send out of town, and I said, you had on your cost $137,000 for 2 students, is that right? You said, yes. And then you told me today there was another $20,000 cost to that. So that's up to $157,000 for 2 students. So we're not giving this to get mercy from you guys. We're just telling you the reality of what the school costs now and what we face when we're in Fairmont. So the other thing is, you know, the funding in Fairmont is, Lago Vista is a huge funding district for that. And the people of Lago Vista understand that. And our other funding is government funding, which is uncertain. So we will collaborate with the city as much as we can, but we're also going to stand up for the school district and those kids because there's so much need. And you know what? I understand that. Guys, I've been in Lockport 70 years. I grew up across the street on Division Street here. So I know Fairmont community pretty well, and it's a great community with a lot of great people in it. So we will continue to collaborate with Mayor Steve and with Lance and work, but we just wanted you to understand, some people are thinking, well, why won't you guys answer? Why won't you tell us what's going on? Because that's what's going on. We're going to really work together to collaborate and make sure that we're financially sound with the school district, because we know one of the first questions they do when they're going to come and build those houses, they're going to ask about that school district. So we want to make sure it stays a good school district. And we appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, Kenny. And I'll say this, I think one of the reasons that the subdivision is moving forward is because of the good work that Fairmont has done. It's shed it had a tough reputation of, not being the greatest school, but that, through the hard work of the boards and superintendents and teachers and efforts have turned that around. It's not the scary school district it was 20 years ago. And so that is a good thing. Ultimately, Lago Vista, I know they tend to bark pretty loud, and that's because, in that whole area, that was the most developed piece of property in the entire district for the longest time. It wasn't until Redwood came in and started sharing those costs that, the rate could finally, there could be an ease on Lago Vista. But of course, some of the problem is too that they bark loud enough for you guys gave a $1.3 million rebate. I mean, when you gave all that tax money back to those folks, that is problematic, man. That is like not thinking ahead. And I can't, or the council, it's hard for us to, deal with the fact that you guys are rebating money when this thing was on the docket. And even, I know it was a board before you, Kenny, but that was a board that actually approved this concept plan. So, I have to factor all those things in as well. All right, Carl, I got Carl Bebrich is next. You guys, I will put our 5-minute timer on these comments now. So I will hit the timer. Actually, 5 minutes is longer than you think, but I will hit it. So please, Carl.
Am I just on the 5-minute timer, or does that apply to everybody? So
No, y'all got to speak within 5 minutes. No, man, everybody gets 5 minutes.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak to the issues you're being presented with tonight. A couple of weeks ago, the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted a public hearing regarding the proposal for Serenity Landing development. After a lengthy presentation of the concept plan, and we again got that tonight, and Lance, good job holding up doing it again, okay. The PCC took testimony from the public. I'd like to, in some way, make that available to you council members. There was a video recording of that. There was a very large number of speakers, most of whom were not particularly in favor of this proposal as it currently stands. Public attendance at the hearing was the largest that I know of since the 2007-2008 Fox Hollow, at which time there was a lot of protests then, as well as going on forward through the different iterations of the proposals that have been presented to this body over the last, 13 years longer, okay? Despite all of the opposition that was expressed at the PZC meeting, the PZC, as you know, voted to recommend your approval of both the concept plan and of the zoning changes. One of the things that I think has gotten lost in the process of these deliberations is that Lockport doesn't exist only unto itself, but it has neighbors all around it. And there's a widespread feeling, both within and outside of Lockport, that those relationships are not well respected. The concept plan, as you see it up here, virtually ignores the area to the south and to the west of the proposed development. And I've heard tonight several references to the apartment complex that's proposed as being on Briggs Street. It isn't only on Briggs Street, it's on Oak Avenue, and it's going to affect all of those people who live along Oak Avenue. One of the problems with the engineering plans for this development is that it shows a 40-foot right-of-way on the south side of Oak Avenue, the whole length of it, all right? That's a legal claim without any merit whatsoever, and we demand that all of the engineering plans that show that 40-foot right-of-way be corrected before any decision is made with regard to whether to approve any or all of the proposals that are before you tonight. There are different ways in which this checkerboard settlement plan could be reconfigured that would balance out traffic, which is a major concern, using the upper leg of the T there for townhouse development, for example, converting the currently two-story, originally planned three-story apartment complexes to townhouses, and maybe moving those off to the corner of Farrell and Oak. I just raised those as potential areas of discussion because the public has not had a lot of direct influence on this plan. Most people don't spend most of their time looking at plans, looking at what's presented on the city website, because they're busy with their work lives and their personal lives. And it's difficult for citizens to speak up and delve into the details of all the planning that's involved here. I'm one who is directly impacted by this. I live at the corner of Oak and Briggs. And no,
Hey, Carl, if you could just try to wrap it up, bro.
I will, shortly. No consideration has been given to the on-ramps onto Oak Avenue going north and southbound and the impacts on traffic at that location and what effect it'll have on my property, let alone the others, all along Oak Avenue. So I'm going to partly speak for those other folks who do live on the south side, and I am wrapping it up now, all right? We'd like you to wait a while longer before making a decision with regard to these two proposals tonight and not make any decision today for recommendation 4, because I sense there is widespread sentiment here that maybe that's the way to go. You need to hear more from people both within the city of Lockport and outside of it about the impacts that this is going to have, not just to the school district, that's important, but to the equestrian lifestyle that exists in and around the city of Lockport. And so I would urge you to tonight think about all the things that have been presented here. Lance's input, but the input from myself and other citizens who are greatly concerned about the effects that this development may potentially have going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Next up is Sue Ann Curtis.
Hi, my name is Sue Ann Curtis. I have a PhD in cultural ecology, and the work that I did for federal agencies for many years was exactly this, citing a project and looking at the surrounding impacts. Well, in this case, I'm living in one. So what I've been asked to do tonight, since I have horses, is to really look at what is the impact to the horse industry. To you, it's land, move, build, but it's a horse community. How many horses are there? So in a survey that was done, and I was part of it a few years ago, within 0 to 2 miles of this property, there are 800 horses. And the number of people that go and use and enjoy each horse will be discussed by another person. So first of all, we have 800 horses. Now, what is that doing economically to the city of Lockport, to expenditures? A lot. Typically, it runs about $1,300 per month per horse, times 12. And if you have 800 horses, I came up with almost $125,000. That's spent locally. Now, if you add to who else is involved, a lot of other people are drawn in because of the horse community. If we go south of us, there is a place that has rodeos and famous singers come in and horse demonstrations take place. They say they have about 20,000 a year come to that facility. If you think a little bit about Francis Field, a little further away, how many are there? Another 5,000 horses go there each year. And then you look around us, looking at this property, going down Farrell, that's where the horse trails start, and they go for 10 miles. There are horse trailers coming in every weekend and parking there. And their horses from our area, they're drawn there to live there because they have horse trails to use. So it is a huge horse industry that also, as I said, pays back to you folks and the city of Lockport. If you're going to come in for the day and spend it with your horse and the kids and everybody, what do? You go shopping, Walmart, or you go out for dinner. All the new little restaurants that have gone in along division. So that's where part of your business is coming from. And looking at people, where are they coming from? So we were trying to find out, if you have a horse, how many people come and visit the horse on an annual basis? How many separate individuals? About 10 people. Okay, 800 horses. Now you can start to do the demographics. A lot. And as I said, somebody will be talking more about that. So what you're talking about doing and not understanding the impacts to the people, people's health, and the health of the horses, you need to be aware of that as well. And so what we've done, we're trying to get a handle on how bad can this be? Does that mean Lockport is really going to manage this well? Well, guys, let's talk about it. First of all, north of us, a church went in, and that's great. But they put in poles in their parking lot, and on each pole there were 2 lamps. The lamps tipped up, and they reflect off our garage a quarter of a mile away. It reflects in a barn window. We had to move the horse because they can't be at night and have light on them all the time. It'll kill a horse. So we're like, geez, Well, now SOS has moved in, and they have spotlights on, shining on our window. They are so bright. If you stare at them, it's like if you've ever been to a soccer match, the lights blast you and make you see spots. So now we have that group. I've called them. I've asked about, please, instead of tipping your lights out, tip it onto your property where the children are. Nothing's happening. We've actually gone to the manager who runs other properties as well. They're based in Chicago. And they, well, gee, we don't know. That's pretty independent. I mean, they're going to blast you with lights? Oh, yeah. So is this what's going to happen? And that's also within the city of Lockport, the church within the city of Lockport. Both of them have light issues that directly impact us. So that's just a starter. Now let's talk about dust. Dust is another big issue.
Yes, Sue, if you can wrap it up, please.
Pardon?
If you could try to wrap it up, please.
Okay, very close. So we need to talk about what's going to happen, how people are going to be injured, and how not to injure them. How build a berm. Move Oak Avenue to the north. This was originally talked with by Mayor Trivedi. Then put up a berm about 10 feet tall. Put evergreens on the top, have one entry, and keep all the buildings on the other side of the berm single story. That solves a big problem, guys. Do more like that, and we'd be willing to help you do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Miriam? Is there a Miriam here? I can't quite make out the last name, sorry. Oh, thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Also want to talk about my friends, just like Sue did. In Lockport, we need to engage with its neighbor, its development land, including ranches, farms with long-established lifestyle. Within 1 to 2 miles are there 800 horses, dozens of ranchers and farms. Each horses bring many people and businesses together. 70% of those horses owners are Spanish speaking. Horse ownership involves about 10 family members and friends on a regular basis. 30% of horses owners are English speaking. Horses ownership involves 5 family members of friends on a regular basis. On an annual basis, horses activities bring about 25,000 owner trailers, best friends, and spectators to the area. For rodeos, showing trains and trails, and pleasure riding activities. Those activities sometimes include professional musical groups. According to the American Horse Council, each costs about $10,000 in maintenance per year and generates about $850 in tax revenue. In 1 to 2 miles area around the proposed development horse activities and add more than $8 million to the local economy. The state and local tax revenues amount of $680,000 on a product like feed, fuel, vehicles, riding, gears, clothing, bed, farriers, and services, insurance, utilities, and many other expenses. Local crop farmers also contribute to state and national economy. Though hay, corn, and soybeans production, equipment, sale, and maintenance, and other operating expenses, horses, their riders need safe trail, not more than traffic. I have 3 grandkids. One of them is autistic, And myself and my husband, we all contribute to these kids. And I'm very happy that we live in this quiet area because they come almost at least 2 times a week to ride horses, which is very good for the little ones, to watch the animals, the chickens, and all of these things. And I'm so happy that we live in here. My daughter rides horses. She participates in the rodeos every year. And I'm very proud of my kids. And I just wish that you guys consider a little bit of all, I'm not telling you not to do this house, but just don't jam them up around, all of it like the way they're doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Kevin Dietrich?
Good evening. Thank you for the time. I'm not going to take too much time, but I'm the pastor of the church that is on the property already. And as I said in the zoning commission meeting, you know, we relocated there and have been sitting there and now are disconnected to really the community of Lockport as well as the community that was supposed to be built there. There's all kinds of challenges that we faced for the last 15 years being there, and so we're really excited about finally what was the reason why we moved there was this development is finally going to get off the ground and be developed, and we just are looking forward to the impact that that's going to have on the community of Lockport, but also on our church. And even like this week, Sunday, we had to cancel because you couldn't get to our church because of all the snow and the road wasn't cleared. So it's had extreme impact on us, and this has been really ongoing for a long period of time. We're thankful for the city and the developers and all that they're doing to try to work with us, and that they have worked with us for all these years. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Bridget Peel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Peel. I am a veterinarian and board-certified equine surgeon that works at Premier Equine. That's on Bruce Road, just to the north of this development. For a little bit of reference, board-certified surgeons in the United States, there are less than 600 of us that specialize in equine medicine. There's 8 of us in the state of Illinois. There's 3 of us outside of the University of Illinois, so it's a very small group of us, a very specialized field. I grew up in Lockport and I worked in several other states over the years, came back because there was a need for this type of medicine in this area, and I'm here representing the horse community, the veterinary community, and just want to bring up some impacts that this development is going to have on our practice and the surrounding horses. So 3 main points: traffic implications, health impacts, and the economic impacts to our businesses and local equine businesses. So our practice is ambulatory as well as haul, and we travel to farms. We also have horses come to us. Horse owners come to us because this is a more rurally located practice. People don't want to drive to the universities and have to deal with the congestion in those areas with their horse trailers. This development is going to directly impact that, directly impact Bruce Road, the surrounding areas. It's already congested enough for people getting off the highways trying to get to us. And then these local roads, they're small enough, adding turn lanes doesn't really decrease the traffic that's coming through there. We're still going to have these horse trailers that are slower moving. We have farm vehicles. They have a wider turn radius, all of those things. The higher density nature of this development is going to draw people that are not used to those different traffic needs. They're going to zoom around those horse trailers, potential for more impacts and collisions with these trailers, which could lead to more accidents and potentially horse death. So that's going to directly impact our haul and caseload. As far as health impacts, right, the development is going to bring light and noise pollution. This directly impacts normal circadian rhythms in humans and animals. We know that contributes to disease processes. including cancer, hormonal dysregulation, fertility issues, and impaired immune function, I should say. Sleep deprivation, that's a phenomenon that occurs in people. We're seeing it now in horses and livestock as developments encroach more and more on farmland. These horses are not adapted for constant exposure to light and noise from commercial and residential dwellings, and we're seeing behavior changes, poor performance, weight loss, and ultimately these animals collapse because they're not comfortable enough to lay down and sleep like they need to. So it significantly impacts their quality of life, and frequently it's unable to be reversed until these horses move to a different farm, different location, until more development basically moves in. As far as air quality impacts that need to be addressed, there's going to be an immediate decline from the initial construction phase, of course, and then a long-lasting impact from the increased automotive, household, and commercial emissions. Horses are 15 times more sensitive to inhaled particulate matter than humans. Inhaled particulate matter, it propagates development of inflammatory disease, which leads to inflammatory airway disease in horses, similar to COPD in people. Not only they're more sensitive to air pollution, but they also have higher exposure times because they live outdoors. They are exposed to it for longer periods of time during the day. The horse community that directly surrounds this development, we've got quarter horse racehorses, upper level performance horses, and senior horses, which are all high risk populations for respiratory disease. Specifically, the quarter horse racehorses housed in the immediate vicinity, they should all be expected to have decreased performance associated with this, which leads to higher risks of injury, and ultimately decreased return on investment for local trainers and owners, which impacts the funds returning to our local economy. From an empathetic standpoint, years down the line, these horses struggle to breathe on a daily basis. Imagine a person, connected to oxygen. We can't do that for these horses. Ultimately, then, humane euthanasia becomes necessary. During the summer months, our practice sees multiple horses on a weekly, sometimes daily basis in need of breathing treatments. There are some that are located on farms directly neighboring this development. With the number of air quality alert days, they're frequent enough right now, but with further decline in our local air quality, it's going to be catastrophic for these patients. I understanding that the zoning's already in place. I was here in 2007, back in the older building on the other side of town. We fought this development then. We're still trying to fight it now. Since that time when those findings of fact were done, our practice went in approximately 3 years ago. There's been new developments that have been put in. I think you really need to readdress those findings of fact and look at the horse community and the impact that it's going to have on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Delinda?
Good evening, Mayor Straight and members of the City Council. My name is Delinda Harrod. I'm a graduate of Fairmont School and Lockport Township High School, and I have been a resident of the Fairmont community for more than 50 years. I am a longtime property owner who cares deeply about the future of Lockport and Fairmont. Tonight, I want to speak about development, safety, and respect for long-established communities. Over the past decade, Lockport has seen steady and significant growth. Here are just some of the many developments that have already been built, and this is far from a complete list. Newberry Ridge, Karen Springs, Lago Vista, Broken Arrow, Highland Ridge, Springs, I could just keep going on and on. My concern is not development itself, but the accelerating pace and the growing impact on infrastructure, traffic, and quality of life. Traffic on 171 and surrounding roads has become increasingly dangerous. Distracted and aggressive driving is now common, even near our schools. Recently, I was near Oak Prairie. I was driving the speed limit and was aggressively passed by a commercial driver. Incidents like this are not rare. They are happening all the time. Residents need safety addressed before more development is approved. And I also want to talk about Fairmont. Fairmont has contributed generations of talent, leadership, and pride to the city. We produced athletes, a respected coach, wrestlers, and track stars who represented Lockport with excellence, and we are Lockport too. The LTH fight song, Fight, Fight, Fight for Lockport High, that belongs to us too. Fairmont residents raise families here. We support local businesses. We buy gas, groceries. We see local doctors and dentists. We are part of Lockport's economic engine, and we are part of its history. Fairmont School District 89 carries the heaviest responsibility for SOS Village. Enrollment can change unexpectedly due to emergency placements. Many of these students need specialized IEPs and outside services, placing pressure on the school's budget. Yet Fairmont has earned a remarkable accomplishment under extraordinary circumstances with a commendable rating on the Illinois School Report Card for 2 consecutive years. The district deserves stability and support, not additional strain. Lewis University understands Fairmont's value. They made a 20-year commitment to uplift the community and currently employ an on-campus liaison dedicated to both the school and the neighborhood. If Lewis University can show this level of partnership, I ask why the city of Lockport cannot do the same. Adding more than 2,000 new residents to a small geographical area will have real consequences. It will increase traffic, burden schools, and alter the balance of long-standing neighborhoods. Fairmont residents have stood up again and again for our community, against the proposed highway, against privatizing our water and sewer, for trash removal services, and against the Briggs Truck Terminal, which the Lockport Council also opposed. I have spent more than 10 years advocating for basic services many Illinois residents take for granted. Around 2016-2017, we met with Ben Benson and Sonny Choi to ask whether Fairmont could join the city's water and sewer system. We were told the city could not help us. We rarely ask for anything, yet we continue to be affected by decisions made without our input. We want thoughtful development that improves life for current residents. We want safety prioritized, infrastructure strengthened, and long-standing communities respected. I am not against growth. I am against unsustainable growth that threatens the character of this city. Lewis University invited me to share Fairmont's story of overcoming adversity in the book Journeys to Purpose. That story is still being written, and this council will decide what the next chapter is, one of partnership or disregard. I respectfully ask the council to slow down, protect existing neighborhoods, support our schools, and consider the long-term impact of concentrated development. Thank you.
Thank you, Delinda. Nuvia? Thanks.
Hello, my name is Nubia Hernandez, and I'm here on behalf of Warehouse Workers for Justice, which is an organization in Joliet that fights for fair working environment for workers, and Lewis University. For the past 2 years, I've worked collectively with both groups, specifically the Lewis University Physics Department, to work on a project that emphasizes and monitors the air quality within the Will County land. What we have done is put up currently we have 16 live sensors within Lockport. We have 2. We have some in Joliet, Romeoville, and Crest Hill. And through these sensors, we're able to keep track of the air quality index in the area, the temperature and humidity, which is available to anyone who wants to look at it on the Purple Air website, which is where we get our sensors. But as owners of these sensors, we are also able to see the particulate matter, which was mentioned earlier, that is within our air. And particulate matter, for those who are unaware, is a particle that we are able to inhale and is 30 times smaller than a single strand of human hair. And this means not only is it able to enter your lungs, but it's also able to enter into your bloodstream. This leads to things as inducing asthma in young kids, worsening the symptoms of those older adults who have heart or lung disease, and overall just creating an environment that is bad for everyone. Beyond just health effects, it's also something that can poorly affect our environment. For example, it can deplete the nutrients in soil, it can damage crops, and it can also lead to reduced visibility. Now, not only is it important to understand what particulate matter can do to our bodies and to the environment, but it's also important to understand the sources. Specifically, particulate matter has many sources, some of those being diesel trucks, construction, regular cars, fires, and many other. With this development, you will be introducing and bringing in two main sources of particulate matter into the community, those being construction and an increase in vehicles. Looking at the plan, it was said that this development would take about 5 years to do. Now we learned today that it might take up to 10 years. That will be 10 years of residents having to hear, see, drive through, and breathe in the air that's produced by this construction. That is 5 years, or 5 to 10 years of everyone having to deal with an isolated spike in particulate matter that can directly impact your health. And not only will it be an isolated spike in particulate matter for those years of construction, but it will continue to be a reality for residents as people begin to move into these homes, and not only are they moving in, but they are most likely bringing a vehicle. With the anticipated 600 units, we can expect at least 600 cars. That is, no surprise, is going to cause a depletion in our air quality. And with our sensors, we're also able to go through and do forms of analysis. I quickly looked at the numbers for Lockport, since we have a sensor in this building, just for the month of November. We averaged for this month at an 8.76 particulate matter in the air, which to the EPA standards is on the good side. But in comparison, if we look at places like we have a sensor in the Joliet Township office, which for those who don't know is located in central Joliet in the middle of the city, they average 10.43. We're not too far behind places like Joliet and Crest Hill and Romeoville that are saturated with factories and houses and traffic on a daily basis. We are already dealing with a crisis here well, I wouldn't call it a crisis, but we are already dealing with air quality issues here in Lockport because, as we have already heard, there are many complaints about the traffic that goes on not only in this area, but other areas in Lockport as well. Just take State Street and leading up to the bridge, that is heavy, heavy traffic that goes through there as well. And with this, if you bring about this development or a development of this size, if you approve this one, you are approving for future developments of this size as well, and that will only further deplete our air quality. And there is no question on whether if air quality is going to go down. It is a guarantee. I know air quality can sometimes be a little bit hard to think about because it's not something that you always see. We don't walk outside and see smog. We're lucky enough to have decent air quality right now, but if we continue to not take into consideration what could happen with these kinds of developments, we may reach a point where we will have air quality that is just as bad as our surrounding neighborhoods, and that is exactly what we don't want. And so I hope that whatever is taken into consideration for this land, because I do understand that there is a need to development because the dust and undeveloped land is not any better for the environment as these developments. I hope that it honors not only the needs of the city overall, but the individual needs of every resident and their well-being as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen. And then Gail?
Good evening. My name is Gail Wyatt, and I've been around the Lockport area for a very long time. When you look at the Serenity Landing, I mean, it looks good on paper, but have you seen what's south of that subdivision or with the development there?
Many people have farms all along the south side of Oak Avenue. They have spent their lives there. I have 2 horses there. I spend most of my time in the Lockport area, either shopping or eating out or whatever. But I think when you look at that, you don't see the serenity of the life that goes on the other side of that. Horses bring a lot of money to this area. And there are other activities besides baseball, basketball, and whatever. There are a lot of children who enjoy riding. And Lockport has been one of the main areas in which horses have been able to survive. So when I see this, I just am amazed that you don't see what's south of that subdivision or the development there. People have invested their lives savings in those farms. And just with a swipe of a pen or yes or a no, you can remove all of that. Have any of you been out in that area, especially in the summer? You know, our environments are moving rapidly. And if you can take a breath here or there, then it's wonderful. But this is a disaster. You cannot put all that development up in apartment buildings. Did you ever see the face of a child that goes up to a pony or a horse? Did you ever see a child sit in a saddle? They love it. But this is going to destroy that area. And I think the main thing you have to do, people are in favor of development, but they're not in favor of removing the kind of life that the people live in that area are accustomed to. My niece lives in Oak Creek there. She loves it there. They have a pond in the back of their house. She doesn't want to see this. But my question is, as an equestrian, don't damage that area. Leave the horses, change that. There's other things that you can do. But horses have been a main function in Lockport for a very long time. You have the canal, that you have canal days. How do you think canal days came about? It came about through the horses that brought up the coal and stuff in that area. So please reconsider when you look at the planning on that. That's a disaster. Don't do that to the horse community. We enjoy it, and this is one of the last areas this is one of the last horse areas in our neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gail. And then Rodney Burks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rodney Burke. You know, I had my cell phone out, all this, what I was going to say, but I deleted it. It's not because I have changed my opinion or mind about Serenity Landing, because I think it's a welcome site. It's a welcome addition for our community. So I thought I would just kind of speak from my heart, you know, like my daughter said, keep it 100. I've been a resident, like I said, at the planning meeting. My parents bought their property on the corner of Oak Avenue and Brasso, like in 1960, 61, somewhere around there. So I've been a part of this community for all my life. And there's no change in it. You know, I hear all the pros and cons about the school. I think all those logistic things can be worked out. But the aesthetic look of the Fairmont community I don't think nobody can raise their hand and say it has changed in the last 50, 60 years. My area code is 60441. I'm not out in Montana, Wyoming, Arizona, where they have millions and millions of acres, where our livestock can roam free. This 60441 is a residential neighborhood that needs to be developed. Our infrastructure, I don't know if anybody's familiar with ComEd, but Oak Avenue, parts of it is 4 kV infrastructure. Well, the system up to date is 12 kV. So we still antiquated on an old infrastructure with our utility. Currently, we have 700 Osmos poles in the neighborhood. Osmos poles are poles that when a windstorm comes, they're likely to break or have issues with it. I think with the Serenity Landing, it's going to improve the infrastructure. ComEd probably is going to put that development underground. When I look at my backyard, I got wires everywhere. All down Oak Avenue, the streets, there's wires everywhere. So I'm caught in between what Delinda said, what Dr. Daniels said. There's value in their comments. And I'm not trying to put anybody down in that horse community. The horse is not the problem. It's the people that ride the horse. You know, I guess if these horses could talk like Mr. Ed, they may speak a different language than what we're hearing here today. There's an address where they have a horse stable in back of a house. The stable is less than a half-car garage. But they got that in the Fairmont community. You go through our community and you see a bunch of abandoned cars just in the driveway, in the yard. So the aesthetics look is not pleasing to me when I bring some of my friends and relatives to my property to get there. So she said, well, let's take a trip through the neighborhood. Yeah, we could do that. And there's so many things I can point out good, and there's so many things I can point out bad. I think the church, the development will bring more people that will come support the different churches. I think it would bring more opportunity for commercial business to come through. I mean, there's a void, like you said, between here and CVS. If, Lord knows, if someone fall off their horse and get hurt and have to go to a hospital or emergency care center on the west side, when you have to deal with the traffic on the 9th Street Bridge, or you go down the street and the Ruby Street Bridge is up Jackson Street, so everything is funneled towards Silver Cross Hospital. Let's take all the consideration where in that site over there, they might put a urgent care there. We don't know. We just speculate. Everybody's throwing figures and data and stuff out here, but we don't know what kind. That may be a community with all electric cars. There may not be no pollution there. So I know I should have just pulled my phone out because I'm rambling. There's so many things that's going through my head as a lifelong member of the community. So I know it's a tough decision that each and every one of you have to make. You have to think about yourself. You have to think about the community. Before I sit down, I would like to thank Lance and Alyssa and the team, all the work that they put down. Their PowerPoint was so clear and precise, a layperson like me could understand it. So I appreciate the effort that you all have done, and thank you.
Thank you, Red. Okay, my friends, that concludes all our cards. I do appreciate the thoughtfulness that everybody puts into coming out and sharing their, their concerns, their anxieties, and a bunch of notes, some of the things that certainly can look into 40-foot right-of-ways, these kinds of things, lighting, angles, and this and such, but I do appreciate all the time that everybody takes to come out, especially on a cold night. So if there's nothing else from up here, I mean, we'll put it on action, and we'll have 2 weeks to talk and discuss and digest, and we'll be back in at our next meeting. So we'll put it down as an action item. And then AT1, Lance, how do you, what do you want to do with?
That's me, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would recommend to the council that you put that on action as well, since again, like I mentioned earlier, that item is kind of presupposing an approval on the first item. So if the first one goes south, the second one would pretty much be moot. So I'd recommend action on that one.
Okay. All right, very good.
Mr. Mayor, may I raise one other thing? I think I just noticed, or I was just informed, that on the city council meeting, you removed CD1 from the consent agenda and never took action on it. So you could do one of three things, or one of two things.
I thought we spoke about it. We did it.
We just pulled it.
You pulled it, but you didn't.
vote on
You never
That was
voted on
like
it.
the first thing I did.
Was it really?
Yeah. We'll go to Kim. What did we do, Kim?
Was there a CD1? Never mind.
On occasion, I do something right. On occasion. Yeah. Yeah. My fault.
Yeah, he did it right away.
No, all good.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, friends, if there's nothing else, then we can actually do a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Steve and Joanne, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.